From Harry Hurley Way in the world's playground to the broadcast pioneers of Philadelphia Hall of Fame, you're about to find out why Harry Hurley has been named to the Talkers Magazine list of the 100 most important talk show hosts in the nation. Live from the studios of Town Square Media in Northfield, it's Hurley in the Morning on WPG Talk Radio 95.5 and the WPG Talk Radio app.
It is 7 minutes past the hour. I'm not in a rush. Full disclosure, I'm not in a rush. But for some reason, today feels more like Friday than it does like Thursday. Although the week, it's been a great week. It's really flown by. How about this one? President Trump campaigning tonight in the South Bronx. And you can rest assured the Democrats, because they are filthy. They are the most disgusting brand that we've ever seen. Just awful. They know it, too. They're just terrible. They're renting a mob. They can't allow Trump to go into the South Bronx and 3,500 people or more show up and Trump be popular. They won't allow it. So you will see it's already being ginned up on social media. They will do what they always do. They will rent a mob. You know what's not being talked? I want to talk about the South Bronx and some pretty neat fun facts. But I do want to make a comment. Biden in New Hampshire. New Hampshire is right now a dead heat. That is another state that Trump doesn't have to win, and yet he very well may win. It's incredible how, and they know it, the Democrats know it, and that's what all this lawfare and all the dirty crap that they've been pulling, that's what it's all about. They will never leave an election to its own devices and simply allow the American people to choose. They always come up with garbage, distraction, wedge issues, make up stuff, exaggerate stuff. I mean, no matter, think about it. Biden had that speech at the NAACP that the White House had to make 9 corrections. He's a disaster. And they know it. Believe me, they know it. They know it better than we do. And they know he should be replaced. But they can't. Number one, it's too weak. And number two, they don't have anybody. Their bench strength is terrible. I always talk about how everything right here at the local level is exactly the same as it is at the national level. Look at our county. When I say our county, I reside in Atlantic County, and I know we have listeners from all over. But Atlantic County, the Republican bench strength is incredible. I mean, just say for example, that Van Drew decided at some point he's not running for re-election. We have Palestina, there's Michael Testa, and I'm sure I think there are others that fancy themselves as the next congressman. Who do the Democrats have? Tim Alexander every 2 years? He keeps running? They have nobody. And that is all of District 2. That's Atlantic, Cape May, Cumberland, and it expands into other counties as well. Geographically, it's one of the largest congressional districts in the country. I think it actually, I used to know this, I think it's close to 40% of the geography of the entire state, just Congressional District 2. And then you look at the county level. Bench strength is incredible. But on the other side, they don't have it. They just don't have it. And they know it. But let me get back to, New Hampshire. Biden did an event that you would think it was in the throes of the pandemic. People were socially distanced. It looked terrible. And the crowd was so small. Look, Trump is like a planet. Nobody is going to draw like Trump. But this is the sitting president of the United States. There is no enthusiasm for him whatsoever. This event, they shouldn't even have had it. It would have been better to say, hey, the president had something that we can't even tell you about. You know, he is the president and he just was working on something. Nobody would believe it, but it would have been better than what they did. And this is why they're coming up on social media with Trump is unwanted. No, he's not. He's not unwanted. He wasn't unwanted at the bodega. He wasn't unwanted in supposedly Blue, New Jersey. You know, they can lie about whatever they want to lie about. If we're being honest, Joe Biden is the one that's unwanted. So you wait and see. This will be a big crowd. I guess the media is going to cover any protests that there are. Note with Biden, there's protesters that follow him everywhere. They call him Genocide Joe. The media is purposely not covering any of that. So I'm telling you, if you just take by comparison New Hampshire and Biden and Trump in Wildwood, or even Trump in the South Bronx tonight, I think it's going to be at something like 6 o'clock. There's no comparison to what's going on. And that's why they have all this court stuff and all these suits and everything else that they're doing. Because they can't keep up with Trump and they can't compete with Trump. And yet everything they do keeps expanding President Trump's lead. Ronald Reagan is the last, and I'm not saying that Trump is going to win New York. He's not. But he's in single digits right now away from Biden. See, in some of these examples, it's not even if he wins. It's just that Biden's going to have to actually spend money and campaign and stuff that should just be automatic. It's a big deal. Trump going to the South Bronx is smart. It means that Trump is taking his message everywhere. Biden is not. And that Trump is expanding the map. Biden cannot. And right now, if you think about it, Biden's going to have to work in New Jersey. He's going to have to work in New York, New Hampshire, and elsewhere. Let me see if I hope I have it right here. I know I do. I'm not going to cover it, though, until after the break. Let's see. Yeah, Bloomberg. You know, every day I keep telling you that, and I can only do it when they exist, but just about every day I bring you a new set of polling numbers. Because the thing about doing that is you're not weighting any one day disproportionately, but the reality is they're all the same. And most of them are not polling likely voters. When they get to that point, then I believe it's really going to take shape in favor of President Trump. This is why the latest scam, and believe me, they're holding their breath. They desperately, they honestly don't know what it will mean, but they desperately, the Democrats, want a guilty verdict. They want to take for a test drive the ability to say that Donald Trump is a convicted felon. You can't vote for him for president. We know you wanted to, but you can't now. We cannot have a convict. Now, we made him a convicted felon, but ha ha ha. I mean, you even had AOC admit what they did. But that's what they want to take for a test drive. God, I hope these 12 jurors that maybe don't even understand, or maybe they do, how much power they have in their hands. And remember, if they want to write books and stuff, is it a good book when you exonerate him? Or do you make money and have a better shot at all of that if you convict him? And don't forget. I was going to say don't remember. I thought I was talking to Joe Biden for a second. Don't remember. Don't forget. Judge Merchan let that jury go away for 8 days unsequestered for a reason. That was not for no reason. You know, I'm an old official for a long time, and I watch coaches that were really good with clock management, and then I watch ones that were really bad. Merchan purposely did bad clock management here. Oh, look, it's holidays, Friday. You know, we're not in session on Wednesday. Oh, yeah, you just go away for 8 days and, you know, talk to anybody you want. And, you know, what could go wrong? No problem. We'll see you next Tuesday. Wow. All right, much more. Don't go away. That's just like calisthenics. I'm all stretched out now, warmed up, ready to go. It's 18 minutes past the hour. No one does what we do. So there's always, I don't feel it, but there's always a lot of pressure because no one does what we do. Be easy if we just got along, go along, get along, do what everybody else does, mail it in, don't do the homework. We're never going to play it that way. Back in a moment. Don't go away.
Mark Levin.
Biden, the international arsonist. The Communist Chinese want Biden reelected.
Yes.
Putin wants Biden reelected,
yes,
despite all the Democrat Party's best twisting and turning and pushing and pulling. The Islamo-Nazi regime in Iran never had it so good. They gave billions and billions, rearmed themselves. They've destroyed all opposition among the people in Iran who want nothing to do with that government. They love Joe Biden.
Yep.
Mark Levin on South Jersey's talk station, WPG Talk Radio 95.5.
Fox News commentary.
The FBI agents who raided Trump's Mar-a-Lago were permitted to use deadly force when necessary. This is wild even by deep state standards. I'm Tommy Lahren. More next.
You can host the best backyard barbecue when you find a professional on Angie to make your backyard the best around. Connect with skilled professionals to get all your home projects done well. Inside to outside, repairs to renovations. Get started on the Angie app or visit Angie.com today. You can do this when you Angie that.
The true downfall of democracy began in 2022 when Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago home was raided by the FBI, but it gets worse. According to newly unsealed court documents, FBI agents were permitted to use deadly force when necessary. A reminder, the raid itself was signed off on by Biden's AG Merrick Garland. If the DOJ was going in looking for classified documents and government records, why the heck was deadly force on the table? This is beyond unsettling that Biden's DOJ would have the leeway to use deadly force on a former president. But there's more. Agents carrying out the raid were instructed to wear unmarked polo or collared shirts and plan to bring standard issue weapons, ammo, handcuffs, and medium and large size bolt cutters. When Americans express concern about the deep state, this is what we are referring to. I'm Tommy Lahren, and you can watch my show, Tommy Lahren is Fearless at Outkick.com.
Hurley in the morning. WPG Talk Radio 95.5. Hurley in the morning.
It tends to make me feel a little bit more intelligent.
WPG Talk Radio 95.5.
You know, over the past day, we haven't talked a lot about that, what Tommy Lahren was chatting up during her little vignette there, and that is that the FBI, they were authorized by Joe Biden and Merrick Garland to use deadly force. Now imagine that. Deadly force on a president with the Secret Service there. Do you understand the gravity to which they have weaponized every single apparatus? They have to be removed. I'm telling you, I hesitate to even think. And my mind won't even let me go there. And you know that we are very realistic about all these elections, to the point where I know that I have agitated people. When I unfortunately told you that Obama was going to win against Romney and that Obama was going to win against McCain, because I knew it. And unless something that I can't even process is going to happen, I cannot imagine Joe Biden winning a second term. With the pain that he has caused, with the degradation that he has made so sadly just destroying this country in so many ways, and the world for that matter. I mean, he has to go. And let's be honest, in 4 years, he is literally, in my opinion, not even going to know who he is. He barely does now. He thought he was vice president during the COVID-19 pandemic. Now, because our media, for the most part, is so completely corrupt and dishonest, they don't make a big deal out of all this stuff. But it's a really big deal. When he thinks that Kamala Harris is the president and that he's still in the United States Senate and occasionally he knows he's vice president, and we know that he's claimed executive privilege on something that they've actually said they would be totally transparent on, and they released all the transcripts, but we know their transcripts are garbage and that they are manipulated and changed, and the things that are completely audible, they will write things like inaudible, acting like they're being honest. Hey, we'd love to tell you what, we just don't know what he said here. Oh, really? You didn't hear him say pause? That's now inaudible? 4 more years, pause. Disturbing. Very, very disturbing. But imagine that. They approved deadly force. What did they think? That the Secret Service and or Trump was going to shoot them? They've got to go. And I can't wait. Oh, again, unless our hearts are just absolutely broken, and all of a sudden it's like, hey, look at this. Wow, nobody saw this coming. How this happened? Because remember, Republicans want votes. Democrats create votes. Big difference. Hard to compete against that. All right, I have so much. I'm like ready to erupt, explode with just stuff that I want to share with you. I said that Ronald Reagan is the first Republican, or I should say the last Republican to win New York State in a presidential election. He won it in 1980, and he won it again in 1984. And again, I'm not saying that Trump is going to win New York. Here's another fun fact. No Republican has won the South Bronx since 1924. 100 years. Wow. And Trump is campaigning. I will tell you right now, I've already set an appointment with myself. I will be watching that. I cannot wait to see Trump in the South Bronx. I mean, it is such a declaration that We're expanding the map. We are competing everywhere. We are taking our message everywhere, and our message is welcome everywhere. I think you can tell. I'm really jazzed up about it. I absolutely love it.
This is the Town Square, New Jersey Info and Weather Network.
I don't love this, though. It's Harry Hurley at 30 minutes past the hour with 3 disturbing stories that you can follow on our WPG Talk Radio 95.5 app. The Atlantic City Education Association union boss has sold out on behalf of the criminally charged superintendent. Tim Mancuso, shame on you. Atlantic City criminally charged school superintendent displays chutzpah. Read why I'm saying that. And an Atlantic City agency is under federal criminal.
From the Town Square, New Jersey Info and Weather Network, I'm Chief Meteorologist Dan Zarrow. It's a warm, sticky, summerish morning. Temperatures starting off in the 60s at least. Radar's lighting up with some thunderstorms over Pennsylvania. Looks like those will hold off here in South Jersey until this afternoon at the earliest. Mostly cloudy and humid today, high of 80. Continuing chance of a shower or thunderstorm tonight, low 64. A shower tomorrow morning, then clearing skies and falling humidity, high back to 80. Get weather 24/7 wherever you are. Download our free mobile app today.
Starting your day the right way with Hurley in the morning. WPG Talk Radio 95.5 and the WPG Talk Radio app. You're waking up with Hurley in the morning.
It's the topics that matter to me.
WPG Talk Radio 95.5.
Thank you for waking up early in the morning. Let me get this in because if I don't, it's going to be 10:06 and it will not have happened. This Anthony Fauci, in my opinion, needs to be criminally investigated. And I believe if a thorough investigation were to be done, he should and would be criminally charged. Now it turns out that an associate of his was destroying evidence. So much ultimately is going to come out about what a scam. COVID-19 wasn't a scam, but what this government did and the blatant dishonesty, truly remarkable. So you've got that whole level of dishonesty. Fauci and his fellow that was working on a private server and allegedly, although I don't even really think you have to say allegedly, but I will, allegedly destroying evidence. And his testimony was so bad that even Kwaize Mfume said that, wow, this is not going to go well for you for the rest of your life. That what you said here, this is incredible, what's going on in our country. Now we learn through emails that Barack Obama and his team, John Fraud Kerry and the rest, Biden, all of them, they blocked the FBI from arresting Iran nuclear people that should have been arrested, could have been arrested. Quote, unclassified FBI email records from August 25, 2017 detailed at least 8 instances connected to the Iran deal where the FBI, DOJ, USG could have moved forward with the cases, but the State Department chose to block them. John Fraud Kerry. Quote, in 6 of these instances, and I believe there's 8 total that they have, in 6 of these instances, the FBI lost the opportunity to arrest the main subject. In other words, they let them get away. The email says that one of the lost main subjects was noted to be, quote, on the terrorism watch list, end quote, and another had, quote, returned to Iran. How about that? I mean, they knew these things. I want to be clear. and I want you to be clear on this, Obama and his team, they blocked arrests of terrorists. Is that incredible? Or is that just okay? Because we have Trump in trial in New York for something that's not even a crime. I mean, it is nuts. I want to mention something. I'm not going to make too big a deal of it, but I think it's really good, and I want to see more, and I'll explain what I mean by more. Nikki Haley yesterday, because they make a big deal. Oh, my God, she gets 15% of the vote. Well, uncommitted voted 17 point some percent, 18.9% against Biden. Uncommitted. So, whoop-de-doo. But it's still good. You don't get to addition through subtraction. And it's still good to be together rather than to have anybody that has influence over quite a few people to be against you. I don't care for Nikki Haley, but I'm glad she did what she did. She was speaking at the Hudson Institute yesterday, and she confirmed that, quote, I will be voting for Trump. Good. Good. And here's what I would do. I only told this to one other person yesterday. I saved it for you. I would give her a speaking role at the convention. Not a keynote address. Something that would be maybe right before prime time. You know, for example, did you know in television, 7 o'clock hour at night is not prime time? It's part of your evening lineup. And it's a respectable time, but it's not prime time. But remember, I'm a big believer. Rush Limbaugh was on from 12 noon to 3 p.m. That's a zombie shift. He was so great, it didn't matter what time he was on. That's when he wanted to be on. And if you think about it, noon to 3. Now, I did noon to 4 for 6 months, and I didn't like it very much. And for 6 months, and people forget. It's so forgettable. It's so unmemorable that people forget. You know, I've actually had someone say, no, you were never there for 6 months. I said, what are you talking about? I said, of course I was. I know where I was. So, but for 6 months, people would say, good morning, Harry. 3 o'clock in the afternoon, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Good morning, Harry. I would go, good afternoon. Good morning. I mean, I'm so ingrained that if you hear me, it's the morning, that it did not matter that it was the afternoon. The point I'm trying to make, and I know why you did it, and I tried to think, by the way, I was very proud. I beat Limbaugh, and nobody had ever done that before. I beat him, and that was cool. But we're good. He's great. But here's the deal. He picked his own shift. You know, if you think about it, if your air shift is noon to 3, you can stay up late every night, and you're still done when it's pretty early. You got till after 3 o'clock. I mean, it's a very, very beautiful thing. So he had the noon to 3 shift and built the greatest listenership in the history of the medium. Right now, the 5 at 5 p.m., that was a fill-in zombie show when Glenn Beck left Fox News. It was a stopgap. I don't speak for Fox News, but I know what it was. It was a stopgap until they decided what they were going to do. And it's a great show. And it's the number one show. It beats all of the primetime shows. So it doesn't matter. You know, some people really get hung up on that. When I worked for 2 years for then Suburban Cable, and we did the show, television show, Hurley in the Evening, I didn't really want Friday night, but I wanted a certain hour, and I remember the late, great Bob Piperato saying, Bob Lund didn't say it as much because he knew we would be great and that it didn't matter when we would come on. And Bob also knew, there were both Bobs, but Bob Piperato also knew that we would do a good job. But I wanted the time that I wanted. And so Friday was the only time we could get it. And we had the number one program. And they told me that. Doesn't matter. With some people, look, I've told you things like sometimes it's the personality and then sometimes it's the station. If you think about Megyn Kelly and Greta Van Susteren, even Tucker Carlson, when Tucker Carlson was on MSNBC and places like that, CNN, his numbers were terrible. Absolutely terrible. He comes to Fox News and he's number one on the planet. It wasn't Tucker. Hate to say it. And I like Tucker. I've known Tucker for a very long time. But it wasn't Tucker. It was Fox News. It wasn't Greta Van Susteren. It was Fox News. It wasn't Megyn Kelly. It was Fox News. You take a Sean Hannity, if he ever decided to make a move, he could go anywhere. A Rush Limbaugh can go anywhere. There are people that it is the personality and that it is not the frequency or whatever, the channel or whatever that they appear on. But in many cases, probably most cases, it's the station and it's not the personality. In rare instances, that's not the case. You think about it, Limbaugh took zombie noon to 3. And remember, he was number one against any day part, morning drive, afternoon drive, and there's much fewer people available during noon to 3. But he still was number one, 20 million a week or whatever it was, audited numbers. So pretty phenomenal. When we come back, I will share with you again, if you are Joseph Robinette, what a middle name, Biden, Robinette. Need I say more? There is a reason, though. I forget. I once read about why that's his middle name. Robinette is in his family lineage somewhere. I don't remember because I don't care to remember too much about it. But there is a reason that he's Joseph Robinette Biden. Unless you're Joseph Robinette Biden or a crazy, delusional supporter of JRB, you're going to love what I'm going to share with you next. Otherwise, if you're in that other category, you won't like it at all.
You're waking up with Hurley in the morning.
It's well-balanced conversation.
WPG Talk Radio 95.5. You're waking up with Hurley in the morning. WPG Talk Radio 95.5. You're waking up with Hurley in the morning.
I listen every morning.
WPG Talk Radio 95.5.
Thank you for doing that. Bloomberg, again, not a fan of Trump. And I want to make sure I looked inside the tabulars, and I'm almost positive that I committed to memory that this is registered voters. Again, I don't know why these places continue to poll unlikely voters rather than poll likely voters, but, it's got to be a reason. Probably isn't a good one, but there's got to be one. Because Biden would do better with registered voters than he would with likely voters. Trump still wins with registered voters, so it's not like I'm trying to spin. I just want you to know that the numbers are even better than you know. The Bloomberg poll, which it's kind of interesting, they call it the blue wall. But Biden's losing everywhere in the blue wall. So how's that a blue wall? I mean, that would be, by definition, that would be untruthful. But the blue wall is considered to be Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. Biden's losing all three. And a week ago, he was tied in one in Wisconsin. But basically, losing all three now. Wisconsin, again, is a state that you wouldn't expect a Republican to win necessarily. And if Trump wins places like Wisconsin and New Hampshire and things like that, then you know it's going to be a real early night. We won't be waiting weeks for we'll have to wait for the ballots that were cast on election day, postmarked by election day, and all that crap. So here we go. I'm not a fan of saying that when you combine all 7 swing states, Trump leads Biden 49-44. That's true, but what do I care about that? Why should you care about that? If you're leading by more in one and you average it out and then you can say you win by an average of all of them, I mean, what does that matter? What you want is state by state. That's what matters. If you add Robert Kennedy Jr., then it is 44% Trump, 40% Biden, 70% RFK Jr. No one else would receive more than 1%. Only 42% of the respondents had a favorable impression of Joe Biden. 41% hold a very unfavorable impression of him. President Trump is at 47% favorable. Respondents, this is also good news, have a more favorable impression of Republicans in Congress at 48% than they do Democrats on Capitol Hill, who were only at 45%. So that's good. This is also extremely important. Respondents, when asked what they consider to be the single most important issue when voting in November, in the November presidential election, the number one answer is the economy, 35%. Listen to this, the second most important issue, immigration, 14%. 35% pick the economy, and that is because the economy under Joe Biden is terrible. And then I can't stand this, but democracy is the third, because you have people like Joe Biden. Oh, we have to save the democracy. Well, we're a republic, you jackass. Democracy, 10%. Next on the list, abortion at 9%. And you're going to be so sick and tired of how much these lying Democrats are going to tell you about how you can't get an abortion, and Trump and Republicans took your abortion. They stole your abortion from you. Medicare, Social Security, 7%. Healthcare, 4%. No other issue received more than 3%. This survey was 4,962 registered voters in 7 swing states: Arizona, Georgia, Michigan, Nevada, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. And President Trump led in every one of those states. And he led overall. I don't know why they did that, but they combined them all, and he leads. And again, if you lead in all of them, you're going to lead in them being combined as well. They say the statistical margin of error is plus or minus 1 percentage point across the 7 states. How about that? This is something I did not like. And this is the danger of having a divisive, caustic, dangerous president such as Joe Biden, they're going to get somebody hurt because they keep on saying how there's going to be violence. Oh, if Trump doesn't win, well, that whole campaign of 2020 was Democrats ginning up violence, paying for violence, bailing out violent criminals so they could be violent some more. So that in the same Bloomberg poll, 49% of swing state voters, the 7 states I mentioned, Arizona, Georgia, Michigan, Nevada, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, were asked, quote, how much do you trust each of the following? That the election and its aftermath will be free from violence. What a question to pose. According to the survey, 49% of respondents expect some degree of violence surrounding the election, including 31% who answered, quote, not much, to the question of trusting the election will be free from violence, and 18% who said not at all. 35% said some in response to the question about trust, and 16% said a lot. The same poll also found that President Trump, the presumptive GOP presidential nominee, leads Joe Biden by 5 points among swing state voters. I don't like that poll at all, but I do believe it because I do believe in self-fulfilling prophecies. When you keep saying something, if you had somebody and they had like a glass of water or something and it was, near the top, but they could easily navigate it and get it from point A to point B without spilling a drop. If you got like right up to them and said, don't spill it, don't drop it, don't spill it, and you invariably, their hand would start shaking and they would start to spill it. Oh, see what you made me do? So, you keep telling people that there's going to be a problem, and the next thing you know, you have a problem. A Rasmussen survey earlier this month, 4 in 10 likely voters said they think that a civil war could occur in the United States within the next 5 years. 37% saying a second civil war is more likely if Biden is reelected. And it's kind of interesting, and it's counterintuitive to what they lie all the time. Only 25% said there would be a second civil war if Trump were to win. But they make you believe like that jackass James Comey, that goof. Didn't Trump pick Comey? I can't remember. And if he did, then what I'm about to say really is quite a beaut. Comey said how Trump will pick terrible people and try to destroy the FBI and this and that. I think Trump picked Comey, didn't he? Or I guess Trump inherited Comey. In fact, he fired Comey, and then he picked Charles Ray, which proves that we're all human because he's a disaster. Terrible, terrible pick. Oh, there's so much more. I'm running out of time. We're down to just over a minute left in the hour. When we come back, I've had my say. What we try to do each and every Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Tuesday, we visit with Kirk Conover. We love to make the 7 o'clock hour wide open forum. So I hope you'll check in. We put a lot out onto the table. 609-407-1450. I hope you'll call me now. John Zarek at 8. We have Dr. Vez. I can't pronounce his last name. It's long, but he's known as Dr. Vez. So there's my save, my out right there. This is a super talented doctor from Atlanticare. This guy is world class. He was part of the presentation that President Michael Charlton did, the Vision 2030. This Dr. Vez is incredible. And in focus and awareness that this is the month of May, Stroke Awareness Month, we're going to be talking about neurosciences and all kinds of listenable stuff coming up in the first half of the 9 o'clock hour. And then Matt Doherty, fresh off of his congressional testimony from yesterday that we wrote all about on the app. He's coming up after Dr. Vez.
WPGG Atlantic City, WENJ HD3 Millville, a Town Square media station. Everything you need to know in 6 minutes starts now. From Harry Hurley Way in the world's playground to the broadcast pioneers of Philadelphia Hall of Fame, you're about to find out why Harry Hurley has been named to the Talkers Magazine list of the 100 most important talk show hosts in the nation. Live from the studios of Town Square Media in Northfield, it's Hurley in the Morning on WPG Talk Radio 95.5 and the WPG Talk Radio app.
Thank you. Welcome back. 6 minutes past the hour. I get fired up for certain things and maybe a little more fired up for something like Trump in the South Bronx. That has me absolutely jazzed up. And I have to tell you, and I don't usually get moved by the other side. I'd like to ignore them whenever possible because they're so dishonest. They mean so little that they're not worth it. They're just not worth it. But their reaction to Trump coming to the South Bronx is just delicious. AOC and some of these other freaks, they're going bananas. So mark my words, they're working since this was announced. They've been working overtime to have counter protests that otherwise, see, I have no problem. If something's organic, people feel a certain way, good. I think we always talk about that. We want the other side to be heard. They're the ones that want to shut you down because they have no credible ideas that actually they can defend. So their whole approach, if you think about it, it's like AOC. Everything's negative. Shutting down Amazon. Look what she did with that. That would have been incredible what that would have meant, jobs and the economy and all of it. But they're always on the side of negativity, always against something. Think about that. What are they for? They're always against something. Either a person, they're against Trump. What did the one idiot say? I think his name is Torres or something. Said he's a state senator or something. That Trump is the single greatest enemy of the South Bronx. Now, how's that possible? He's created housing. He's created other economies of scale. I mean, how's he the greatest threat? How does that even make any sense? 609-407-1450. A lot of calls to get to. Let's do it. Welcome to Hurley in the Morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, Harry. Thank you for taking my call.
My pleasure.
I have a question for you. I want your opinion about something, but I again, every time I'm waiting to come on, something else comes up. And the news just did about Chuck Schumer calling for a border deal.
I know. It's well, they have vulnerable members that have done nothing for 3.5 years, and they want to have something where they can say that they tried to fix the border and Republicans, went against it. They got 49 votes on something that was just as bad as this in the past. They'll get less than that this time.
It's insane to listen to this stuff. But anyway, here's what I want your opinion on. And if you've discussed this, then I'm sorry, I'll get off.
It's okay.
What do you think about this guy just elected in Panama?
I have not talked about this.
Okay, this is Jose Molino.
Right.
His picture is square-jawed. If you didn't know who he was, you'd say this is a colonel an old colonel from the Marines. Square-jawed, gray hair. His first move is to close the Darien Gap. He says he's shutting it down and he will send people back to where they came from. No, listen, hold on. So I ran this past my crew, the people, all of us that call you and all of us that think similarly. We have people we talk to all the time. I mean, I have my crew down in Virginia. It's called the Temple of Hate. Their first reaction was he's just looking for a bigger piece from the cartel.
There you go. Well, I don't know a lot about Cortizo, who they have a thing in Panama where you can only serve one term and then you have to go. So usually I think Cortizo, and I think this is probably fairly accurate, was pretty uneventful. I'm not, and again, that's always we have our own standards here. By our standards, he would not be uneventful, but by their standards, Cortizo was uneventful. We didn't hear too much about it. Now we'll hear a lot about this, because they typically go, and again, moderate is just in the eye, ear of the beholder. Cortizo would not be a moderate in America, but I think Cortizo was a moderate in Panama. So there were really nothing, that was gaining any traction by way of news in the last, hey, Tom P., in the last presidency. But this guy, Jimmy, we're going to hear a lot about.
Well, I got to guess, and that's not the only thing he's spouting about doing. He is a hardliner and doesn't want this crap going through his country anymore. Now, one more. The guy that just got recently elected in Argentina, have you heard what he has had to say?
No.
This guy has clearly said he's not going digital. He wants the American dollar to be the backbone of his economy.
Good.
This is real good. And the way Argentina goes, usually the most of South America will go. But he's another guy, completely conservative, doesn't want any more of this CCP crap, this Belt Road Initiative down in South America. So, I mean, on the horizon, there's also some good stuff, and I'll get off because I know a lot of people want to talk.
Jimmy, good stuff. I appreciate it, and that's a bellwether. Thank you. When you see things like conservatives winning around the world and change happening, that is a byproduct of this vacuum of leadership that Joe Biden has created around the world, and these radicals. Look, it was, I think, Portland. You had this radical Soros DA. He got crushed yesterday in the election by a Republican. So they can get away with certain things, and they can do their extreme philosophy of governance if they have a 4-year term. But when people have the opportunity to course correct, and I think that's what's happening right now across the whole country, there's a reason why this so-called blue firewall, Trump is leading in all of them. And when you take the entire 7 battleground states, Trump is winning right now 7 for 7. He hasn't been any worse in months than 6 out of 7. 609-407-1415 open phone line. Welcome to Hurley in the Morning. You're on the air.
Hi, good morning, Harry. Thanks for taking my phone call.
My pleasure.
Just a couple points. I know the other day you were talking about the Elvis Presley estate, and I think I heard last night that it's going to be held up. I guess they somehow got temporary restraining orders so they can investigate signatures.
Here's the story. A judge ruled yesterday, yes, that the sale did not go, the foreclosure sale was not permitted to go down. Even better news. Whatever this suspicious entity, I forget the name of it, Lazga, whatever the name of this thing was, the individual came out and said that he is dropping. So they don't even have to investigate anything. It's dropped. Graceland will stay under its rightful ownership within the Presley family, and that whole situation is over.
And then the other point was you were saying about George Clooney's wife. That is laughable at the end of the day because...
Amal Clooney, the world dictator, leader of the world. Give me a break.
Nobody, right?
Yeah.
And the fundraiser, I can just imagine being at the fundraiser. What's Joe Biden going to say? Yeah, just give me your money. And by the way, sit in the corner and shut up and don't worry about doing anybody because we just want your money. That's all we care about,
Oh, they're terrible. They're hypocrites.
Yeah.
It just makes me think about you had Bill Maher on with The View, and he is telling the ladies on The View that, he watched Biden's last speech and that it was like a cadaver. And then Joy Behar says, but his mind is still really sharp. I mean, come on. That is one thing that we all know is not true.
Right. When you have to say it, it's not true. It's the exact opposite.
Correct. Exactly.
The other thing was with AOC, whenever I hear her talk, and I think if I remember correctly, correct me if I'm wrong, Harry, but isn't she in District of Queens, has nothing to do with Brooklyn, right?
She is in Queens, correct.
Okay.
The
So
South Bronx, remember now, she thinks she's Jenny from the block, so she does believe that that's her stomping ground.
Well, every time I hear her talk, Harry, it just makes you laugh because you can't take her serious. She reminds me of that girl in a bar. She's like a barfly, has an opinion on everything, but has no facts to back anything up, and she just has a moron at the end of the day.
Well, she's a dope. And here's another thing I do not like. I don't like phony. Like, I would not be in the Deep South or something and then do some put-on thing like Hillary, I ain't nowhere's tired, I've come too far. I mean, you're never going to find me ever do anything like that. I'm not going to start saying y'all because I don't say that. But here you have AOC. I promise you, that whole accent that and especially when she gets like, sort of jacked up a little bit, like she was with Marjorie Taylor Greene, it's a complete fake put on.
Oh, it's so phony. You can tell. And the only last point, you had a call around the other day, and I agree with this. I don't know if you can reach out to Trump or not, but he should put a commercial ad out showing that debate where Kamala Harris accused Joe Biden of being a bigot and a racist. And I think they should definitely put that out there because Joe Biden keeps lying about how Trump is not trying to help the black people and all that. That's a bunch of garbage. So he needs to put an ad out there refuting that, showing basically what Kamala Harris and Joe Biden are really about, and show what really happened in that debate. You know what I'm saying, Harry?
Yeah, I totally agree. I watched it, and she called him a racist. She said, I was the little girl on that bus, and she called him a racist. Joe Biden hates her. Joe Biden doesn't like her. He picked her because he boxed himself in and said that he would pick not only a female, but an African-American female. And so he picked someone that he doesn't even like. They don't like each other. They're a complete fraud. And I agree with you. I think it would be a crime for this election to come and go, and for commercials not to be run with Kamala Harris calling Joe Biden a racist, especially when did you believe him when he was speaking before the NAACP? And he talked about the first meeting that he ever went to was the NAACP. Come on.
No, he doesn't sound legitimate, Harry. He sounds like someone just reading off a cue card. He's not genuine at all. And you can tell that he's a phony. He's a fake. He's always been a fake. And that's at least he's consistent. He's very consistent. 50 years of this, and we know what we give Joe Biden. You know what I'm saying?
I exactly know what you're saying. All right, my man. Have a great day. Thank you. Keep thinking today's Friday. I don't think it's Friday. I know it's Thursday, but it feels for me, for some reason, I don't know what happened this week. I'm usually right on point, but for some reason, it feels like it should be Friday, but not in a way where the week has dragged on or anything like that either. It's really kind of interesting. If you heard my opening remarks, I can't quite verbalize it, but what do they say? I know it when I see it. We're going to be right back, and you will be our next caller. I hope you can hang in there for just a little bit. This portion of our program brought to us in part by Batteries Plus in Northfield, right next to Broadcast Center, and in Mount Laurel, New Jersey, and they're one of our WPG industry aces. If you have a car, truck, marine, RV, camper, golf cart, ATV, mobility scooter, motorcycle, anything with wheels, and you need a battery, they've got it. If you need LED, emergency lighting, portable generator, surge protectors, anything like that, Batteries Plus has them all. If you have a broken phone or tablet screen, they can fix it. Your cell phone battery, if it needs replacement, they'll do it right while you wait. And then your phone will charge again and hold the charge, and you'll have a brand new battery. Watch and key fob batteries, they've got it. Get a replacement while you wait. If it's broken, bring it in. They'll fix it. Inside Batteries Plus, from cracked screens to battery replacements, charge ports, speakers, microphones, pretty much anything inside a phone, they can fix it. Batteries Plus, and we fix it. 900 Tilton Road in Northfield, Route 73 in Mount Laurel. Stop into one of their two locations and enter to win a pair of tickets to see Journey and Def Leppard. We'll be right back, and your calls continue at 609 407-1450 right after this.
Hurley in the morning.
If you really want to know what's happening in Atlantic City, it's Harry Hurley every single morning.
WPG Talk Radio 95.5.
Your morning espresso starts right here. It's the Sean Hannity Morning Minute.
Remember Hillary Clinton? It was a business expense. Remember legal expense? Did she falsify that when she funneled money to Perkins Coie, a law firm, that then gave money to and hired Fusion GPS, an op research firm, that then hired Christopher Steele to put together the lying Russian disinformation dossier? Why isn't Hillary Clinton in trouble? Same time frame, because Hillary Clinton's a Democrat. Hillary Clinton's not a Republican. Hillary Clinton's protected by the system. Donald Trump is persecuted by the system. Don't expect justice in New York. I'm telling you to expect the worst in spite of no evidence of any crime. Basically, you might as well take your Constitution and put it in a shredder. How sad is that?
The Sean Hannity Show from coast to coast later today.
Hey, everybody, your friend Sean Hannity here with a message that is all about your safety. Now, when it comes to protecting yourself, your loved ones, well, it's not about having a firearm. It's about understanding the continuum of force philosophy. Now, picture this. A situation arises where you or a loved one are threatened. Now, instinct may drive you to reach for a lethal means immediately. Now, what if there was a way to effectively defend yourself, de-escalate a situation without the irreversible consequences of deadly force? Enter Byrna, B-Y-R-N-A. It is the less lethal pistol launcher equipped with tear gas and kinetic ammo to incapacitate attackers for up to 40 minutes. Byrna is legal in all 50 states. No background check is required and can be shipped right to your door. Now, Byrna is proudly American, manufactured in Fort Wayne, Indiana. Just go to Byrna.com/Hannity. Right now, you'll get 10% off. That's BYRNA.com/Hannity.
You're waking up with Hurley in the morning on South Jersey's talk station, WPG Talk Radio 95.5. You're listening to Hurley in the morning.
Egg Harbor Township. I'm from Margate.
Listen at home or in the office on your smart speaker. Just say, play WPG.
Brigantine. Cape May. Galloway.
Hurley in the morning on South Jersey's talk station, WPG Talk Radio 95.5.
Thank you very much. 26 minutes past the hour. Thanks for waking up early in the morning. Welcome to the program. Hi there. Hello, caller. Hello. Hold on. Listen for the beep. Now, this is someone that I told them they were next. I sent them the tone. Then even during the break, I said, don't go away. You're going to be next. Caller, listen for the beep. Otherwise, we're going to have to move on. Caller, are you there now? Okay, sorry. Got to go. Always give two chances, but we just have to move. There's too much going on. It's Harry Hurley. I'm asking you to join my friends at United Methodist Communities at the Shores in Ocean City for a spring market. And we've been talking this up for quite a while. And it is this Friday, as in tomorrow, from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. You can browse booths and a variety of crafts and merchandise. You can enter a floral wreath contest, enjoy ice cream and live music from Ralph Michaels, the sounds of Sinatra if you're considering senior living options for yourself or a loved one. I recommend United Methodist Communities at the Shores in Ocean City. It's fully remodeled with private apartments, 2 restaurants, a bistro, on-site fitness center, and the Tapestry's Memory Care residence. Best of all, it's just 3 blocks from the Ocean City Beach and Boardwalk. You can celebrate the season at the Shores Spring Market tomorrow. Crafts, vendors, ice cream, live music. Friday, May 24th, tomorrow, 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. at the Shores, located at 2201 Bay Avenue in Ocean City. To learn more about United Methodist Communities at the Shores in Ocean City, call 609-399-8505. That's 609-399-8505. And please tell them that Hurley in the Morning sent you. Welcome to Hurley in the Morning. You're on the air.
Hopefully you can hear me. Can you?
I hear you perfectly, yes.
All right, cool. I got to get a new phone. What are you going to do? Ocasio-Cortez or Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez?
Or as Kirk Conover calls her, Sandy Cortez.
Yes.
Hey, by the way, Flash, your phone is terrible. I'm happy to make an investment in a new phone for you. It's clicking on and off now. I think you just have a bad phone. But let's make this work. Let's do this. Go.
Okay. Now, the most dangerous body of water on the face of the earth is the Bering Sea, which is the northernmost part of the Pacific Ocean. However, the Atlantic Ocean as a whole is the second most dangerous body of water on the face of the earth. So if it's idiotic to build wind farms in the Bering Sea, why is it less idiotic to build them in the Atlantic Ocean? And also, even if people don't believe that those three back-to-back hurricanes, Harvey, Irma, and Maria, were man-caused, that being it's aluminum foil wrap nonsense, that being, but it was climate change. They're still saying that they're going to increase. So more reasons why not to build those freaking wind farms, but they'll do it anyway. Now, here's something I want to ask you. Now, Ørsted, in cooperation or partnership with Shell US LLC, is going to guarantee $100 million to put them off of New Jersey alone. Now, they're going to get that money back, but also federal programs are actually putting money in from our side to put those wind farms up. So my question is it not correct that big money, they're not going to wait for the energy produced from those wind turbines. They're going to get their money back right away. Plus,
that's all part of the agenda, the radical agenda. You couldn't do this without such a radical level of willingness and participation. By the way, I'd like to know why they're still building that huge building out there. If Ørsted left, and they allegedly did, who's still building that building out there in Gardner's Basin?
And it's all more examples of it's taxation without representation, using taxpayer monies against the welfare of the taxpayers, and also not without our consent. So it's just more causes for revolution. But if you talk about
that, by the way, that is, and I'm not saying you don't make a lot of accurate statements, because you do, and you do make statements that, sometimes I think are a little bit out there, but I know how much you read and how much you believe what you believe, so I'll never put down anybody's opinion. But that is one of the most accurate comments that you have ever made on this program. And I use that phrase quite a bit. I despise it when government uses our money against us. And it's just another way, Flash, that they weaponize. And come to think of it, I got to ask you to hold on. Don't do what you usually do. And that's why you became the Flash, because you say a lot and bam, then you're gone. Somebody wants to talk to you in our audience, and I know I have it written down on my day timer. I know where it is. They sent me an email about you, and they wanted your email address, and I don't have your email address. So, Flash, finish what you're saying, but then don't hang up, okay? I got to talk to you off the air.
Okay, cool. I just want to say that we don't wear a tinfoil hat dunce cap. We wear a silver crown. Yeah. That's all I want to say.
That's good. All right, hold on, Flash. I like that. Yeah, and believe me, you will never, ever hear me say anything that would qualify for what you just said. That was good. I liked what you just said. All right, I'll find the email. I'm going to give Flash the email address of this person, which is a quicker way than me I did write the person back that the next time we spoke that I would remember to connect you to, which we tried to do before. I can't remember if the connection happened, because I gave a phone number to someone and then they said the phone number wasn't right. I knew it was right, and then I called the number and it was right. But anyhow, Flash, hold on. We're gonna connect you to a fellow listener that wants to talk to you about something. 33 minutes past the hour on the Hurley in the Morning program.
This is the Town Square, New Jersey Info and Weather Network.
It is, and at 33 minutes past the hour, Harry Hurley, 3 stories that you can follow right now on our WPG Talk Radio 95.5 app. The Atlantic City Education Association union boss, I know why he's doing it. You know why you're doing it. But he came out and publicly supported the criminally charged superintendent of public schools. Shame on you, Tim Mancuso. Atlantic City criminally charged schools superintendent is displaying chutzpah. That's a separate item.
From the Town Square, New Jersey Info and Weather Network, I'm Chief Meteorologist Dan Zarrow. Today is an eyes-on-the-sky kind of situation. Weak cold front driving in around to showers and thunderstorms. The ingredients are there for severe weather, especially wind and torrential rain, but it's not a perfect setup. Mostly cloudy, humid with a round of thunderstorms later on, high of 80. Continuing chance of a shower or storm tonight, low 64. Clearing skies and falling humidity tomorrow, high again 80. Get weather 24/7 wherever you are. Download our free mobile app today.
New Jersey voters.
Hurley in the morning. WPG Talk Radio 95.5 and the WPG Talk Radio app. Starting your day the right way with Hurley in the morning.
Honesty and transparency, is not afraid to get down and dirty and really just tell me the truth.
WPG Talk Radio 95.5.
Oh, this morning is flying by, and this is crazy. If you're looking to jump in, this is the first time we've had any open phone lines this entire hour. So we've done a gold rush of great calls. You can jump in right now until the top of the hour at 609-407-1450. I hope you'll check in. 609-407-1450, whatever is important to you. We certainly would love to hear from you. 609-407-1450 for the next 21 minutes. Also, Howard in Mays Landing, the Flash has your email address now. Actually, Howard had asked me for flashes, but I didn't have it. So I flipped it. The next time I would hear from the Flash, I would give him yours. So you'll be hearing from him, and Howard wanted to open dialogue with the Flash. I love that kind of thing about Albert Pike and Freemasonry and some of the things that the Flash has talked about over the years. All right, so here we go. I want to share something with you that hopefully what this means is that this is the last delay, because Abby Lowell, on behalf of Hunter Biden, just keeps asking for delay after delay after delay after delay. And, we see how fast they get Trump into courtrooms, like lickety-split fast. Hunter Biden, it's years and years and years, and it never happens, because we realize that the whole system is completely corrupt and the game is rigged. However, Hunter Biden drew a short straw, and he did not get judges. Think about this. If he would have gotten one of these, Joe Biden is very close, and maybe actually yesterday hit his 200th judge confirmed. And I'll tell you, if you saw what I saw, this nominee, this radical, I can't believe that this person is allowed to be a judge. And both Senator Kennedy and also Senator Ted Cruz, oh my God, just eviscerated this woman. She allowed some 6'2" biological male to flip his whole script and all of a sudden say he's a female and go into a prison and bunk with women. And they just destroyed her. But Abby Lowell, he got it. He got a delay on the, remember now, Hunter has 3 different federal gun charges. That's one trial. And there's no more delays on that. That's going to happen in June. Now, this was also supposed to happen in June on the trial on the tax charges. Abby Lowell succeeded in getting it delayed until September. I think this is a big mistake, because this is bad news for Joe Biden. It's obviously very, very bad news for Hunter Biden. You always want to get bad news out earlier. So he's going to have this gun conviction. I don't see how he could beat that. So he'll be criminally prosecuted and convicted. And then instead of getting it all done during the month of June, he's going to have another trial in September. And the reason I can say that is this tax charge trial has been moved to September 5th. But the judge presiding over the case made it clear that the only reason and only way I will give you the delay you're asking for is if you, Abby Lowell, Hunter Biden's attorney, promise that you will not seek any further delays. So I think this is a total miscalculation. Great move by the judge because you're fair. You gave the defendant more time to prepare. Great. But now you have it locked in. Bad mistake. Again, they need the life coach. HH Life Coach, LLC. Life coach would have said, get bad news out early. And whenever possible, report, self-report. Delay that till September? That's got to go on for at least a week or two or more. You're talking mid to third week of September? People are going to be voting by then. Big mistake. You'll be on right after the break. Please don't go away. We'll be back. It is the Hurley in the Morning program. We are the opposite of fake news.
In a world full of fake news, AI, and unverified information on social media, where can you get the latest, most accurate South Jersey news? WPG Talk Radio 95.5 and the WPG Talk Radio app. Don't wait for the newspaper to come in the mail. The WPG Talk Radio app is updated around the clock from New Jersey's largest radio news team. Accurate, dependable, reliable. When you need to know, it's WPG Talk Radio 95.5 and the WPG Talk Radio app. WPG Talk Radio 95.5. Hurley in the morning.
It's breaking news that I can trust.
WPG Talk Radio 95.5.
Thank you. Welcome back. It is 47 minutes, almost 47 minutes past the hour. Right back to your call, 609-407-1450, open phone line. Thank you so much for calling in. You're on the air.
Yeah, good morning. I'd like to talk about Mr. Comey, but first I'd like to talk about Jill Biden, and Jill, that is, and her elderly abuse on her husband.
Yes.
I'd just like to relate that, like when we were watching the Mueller report, and at the end, we felt sorry for Mr. Mueller because of his feebleness, and people were calling him the cadaver, and he couldn't remember who appointed him. And
it was terrible.
And it was really, really sad, and we all... And I say this with, I think a lot of people believe, like I did, you really felt bad for him. It was, he didn't know what he was doing there, and it was sad. And that's what I feel about Jill Biden and what she's done to her husband and the people around him. But he is a useful idiot at the expense of us. But yeah, I was watching Mr. Comey last night. And he's saying that the FBI would be even more corrupt under Trump.
Wasn't that amazing? Wasn't that amazing to listen to somebody who actually took classified documents? He committed a crime, then admitted he did it, though, because he wanted to make sure that a special counsel would be appointed. What a horrible, horrible man he is.
Yeah, he threw us off because he did it, Hillary.
Yeah.
But the under Biden, the corrupt Department of Justice, why aren't they allowing alcohol, tobacco, and firearms, ATF, to open a can of whoop-ass on fentanyl and illegal guns unless that's the way they like it?
Evidently. I mean, because that's not happening. And for 3.5 years, it's been allowed to go on. So it's not just a byproduct of letting illegals in. They're letting all the other bad stuff happen right alongside it. So how can I deny what you're saying?
If you remember that stupid experiment they pulled, I forget what state it was. I think it might have been Bernie said. Was it Vermont, Rhode Island? That they took a list of who owned legal guns, and they posted where all the legal houses had guns. And by doing so, they allowed the bad guys to know who had the guns, so they went to the houses who didn't have guns. Thank you, Harry. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Have a great day. Also, Andrea, if you are still listening, I did send you a digital message that we've been able to get your significant other, Gray, into the 17th annual Hurley in the Morning Charity Golf Open. We're very, very fortunate. And this is the only reason, because it is sold out. And that is that Senator Palestina is unable to play. And we have a foursome that is now open, but it's now not open, though, because we are filling it. I will say this. Right now, 2 of 4 are 100% filled. Gray and a nice man from Philadelphia. I should say Pennsylvania. I think it's Philadelphia, but definitely Pennsylvania. That I haven't met him, but I now know him. We have spoken on the phone, and you know we've shared some communications. It was very cool. I didn't bother to ask him how, but this individual sent in $225 and thought that you could just sign up for our charity golf tournament that way. I had to call him and tell him that I'm going to send your check back because we're sold out, and I just don't see any openings happening. But then I took it under advisement and thought, you know what? You just never know. So anyhow, last night I spoke with him and told him he's in, and he was very, very happy about it. All right, so here we go. Joe Biden, they're celebrating Joe Biden's 200th federal judge. Now, I want you to understand something. Do you have any idea how radical these judges that Biden is getting confirmed? These are horrific judges. They're the kind of judges that are as counterculture, hard left, horrific as you will ever find. And a few hours after he got number 200, Judge Angela Martinez, he got number 201, Dina Coggins, for the Eastern District of California, 50-44. I mean, these votes, the Democrats they don't care. They just stick together. And 50 wins, and they keep getting it. Listen to this. President Biden's nominees, quote, to the federal bench represent the best in our judiciary, said Senator Dick Durbin, chair of the Judiciary Committee. Quote, they are highly qualified. Not a single one of these nominees, these 200, have failed to be found qualified or well qualified by the American Bar Association. That is a departure from the previous administration's record. Now, you understand? This is liberals and crazy socialists that are supporting liberals and crazy socialists, and they make that a standard of excellence. I am so sick of these people. President Trump is the all-time record holder. He appointed 234 federal judges to lifetime terms during 4 years. Now, that's a record for one 4-year term. Obama appointed 329 in 8 years. So if Trump can get a second term, hold on, I'm writing somebody that needs me. Give me just a second. Anybody that wants to know when our tournament is, it's so simple to remember. We are the third Thursday of June every year. That's it. Nothing to even think about. Then you go to the calendar, and that would be June 20th. Next year, and this has happened, I think, twice previously in what will be 18 years, next year the event is on Don Hurley's birthday. I have an identical twin brother by the name of Don Hurley. And next year's 18th annual Hurley in the Morning Charity Golf Open. Ooh, Margie just sent me a picture of one of our beautiful... Wait a minute. I might have to... That might be Hurdle. I've been in search... We have now a second turtle. I've been in search of Hurdle, but this looks a little different Little different color. I haven't seen Hurley in, I think, 2 years. I think. At least a year. It's always a year. But I don't remember seeing him last year. I rescued Hurley out of the pool one time. I don't know how long he was in there. It wouldn't be more than part of a day because we're always checking, but he was in there. Got him. So that's good. But yeah, if you want to know when our tournament is, third Thursday in June, and next year is June 19th, my identical twin brother, Don Hurley's birthday. You don't know how many times I get people saying, Harry, you do know that's your birthday too. I said, no, I understand what you just said. It is Don Hurley's birthday. I've been doing this for a number of years where I do not acknowledge that Don's birthday is the same as mine. I just say it's his birthday. So anyhow, enough on these radical judges, but just understand when we use words like elections have consequences, these are hundreds of people that will be making terrible, awful decisions for years to come. And what the Democrats do now, they don't waste one. They are putting the most radical people. Look, I have no problem. You win, you have the appointment power. If you have the majority in the Senate and you can get judges confirmed, you have to accept. If I use the words elections have consequences, we have to accept that that's the way it is. But what these firebrand, socialist, crazy Democrats do today, they are putting up some of the most radical, unacceptable people that we have ever seen. And then, of course, they use the words that, they're so well qualified, supremely qualified, and the bar says so. And so we're supposed to then say, just fold and say, oh, well then, okay, then we can do no better. You're the best. Keep doing what you're doing. Welcome to Hurley in the Morning. You're on the air.
I hate to be rude. Can you take me off the air for a sec?
Well, I can put you on hold for a few minutes, and I can talk to you at the top of the hour. We can do that. So hang in there. Don't go away. And I think I got, let's see if maybe you said, oh, beautiful. That's good news. All right, good. But Andrew, I'll talk to you in just a moment. Please don't go away. How about this one? Have you noticed how, because this vacuum of leadership that I talk about all the time has happened over the past almost 4 years, that a lot of weird things, the way that our enemies are emboldened and our friends even don't have respect. So now you have Germany saying they will execute the ICC. That's that Tribunal of Injustice, that International Criminal Court that wants to arrest Benjamin Netanyahu. They're trying to make a moral equivalent out of even Biden. It was a bridge too far for the incoherent American president who said there is no moral equivalent between Israel and Hamas. I mean, I was like, wow, broken clock is right twice a day. I can't believe what I just heard. But of course, that doesn't really do him well with the pro-Hamas wing of the Democrat Party in America. But imagine Germany. They're going to abide by this crazy Amal Clooney International Criminal Court. I mean, come on. What is going on around here? And then it was France and two other allies that are in agreement with radical stuff that's going on and going against us. So we really do, even if you don't like President Trump for whatever reason, I do like him. And I certainly like his presidency, and he's proven the kind of president that he is. Tough on our enemies, loyal to our allies. The economy is strong when he's president. Wages work. Inflation is low. Energy is abundant. Energy is affordable. I mean, you hate him all you want. I'll take that every day for the rest of my life, those policies over the crap that we have now. John Zarek joins us next. Don't go away. It is The Truth in Broadcasting, the one and only, the Hurley in the Morning program, exclusively on WPG Talk Radio 95.5.
WPGG Atlantic City, WENJ HD3 Millville, a Town Square media station. Everything you need to know in 6 minutes starts now. From Harry Hurley Way in the world's playground to the broadcast pioneers of Philadelphia Hall of Fame, you're about to find out why Harry Hurley has been named to the Talkers Magazine list of the 100 most important talk show hosts in the nation. Live from the studios of Town Square Media in Northfield, it's Hurley in the Morning on WPG Talk Radio 95.5 and the WPG Talk Radio app.
Thank you. 6 minutes past the hour. This is John Zarek's regular weekly program, presented and sponsored by the law offices of John Zarek, Thursday mornings in the 8 o'clock hour. John is the official and exclusive lead counsel for criminal defense legal matters for the Hurley in the Morning program. The law offices of John Zarek focuses their efforts on criminal defense law. The goal is to provide you and yours with the very best legal defense. You can reach John at 609-641-2266 or on the web at johnzarek.com. Hello, counselor.
Good morning, Harry.
How you doing?
I'm doing great. If it were any better, it would be illegal.
And you would need John Zarek.
That's right. That's right. I'm really
in a court of law. Hey, I'm pretty fired up. You know, part of Bizarro World is everything's upside down, inside out. 6 p.m. tonight, my former boss, who you also did work for, did good work for, President Donald Trump will be in the South Bronx holding a rally. He's taking his message everywhere, John.
I think it's a good goal-setting tool for him.
Me too.
You know,
expand the map.
Aim big.
Look, if you and I had to, if we had to put our lives on the line, or our families, or our homes, I think we would say that it's more likely than not that Joe Biden will win New York. But Trump expanding the map, he's in single digits in New York. He's very close in New Jersey. Now, these are states he doesn't have to win. To me, I think some would say, come on, you're wasting time, so you make it closer, but you're still going to lose. What are you doing? Go somewhere where you could actually make a difference. I think, too, like you just said, I think it's smart.
I think it's good. It shows a lot of aggression, I guess you'd say. And now, this type of activity, campaigning in states that typically are not achievable for Republicans, is not a good strategy if it's a close race.
Right.
If you're scratching, if you're behind 3 points and you might be doing even in a few states, but you're behind 3 points, you don't want to waste money and time in states where you are likely to lose by 15 points.
Yes.
That's suicidal. Not to say that other candidates haven't done it, but it has never worked out.
Look at all the free media, though, you get, like the New Jersey rally. You can't even put a price tag on the amount of free media that Trump got by drawing that crowd. This is going to be similar to that, and it's going to garner him coverage he otherwise wouldn't have gotten. So that's not a waste. And I understand exactly what you said, and I don't disagree at all. But I do think the lion's share of the time needs to be spent in the 7 battleground states.
Yeah, I'm not saying this was a waste.
Yeah. I know you didn't.
The Bronx is, it's a tremendous public relations victory already. He hasn't even gone there.
No Republican has won the South Bronx since 1924. No Republican has won the state of New York since 1980 and 84, President Reagan. But I still think it's good that he's doing it.
Yeah, sure. I mean, he's not going there to win the South Bronx. He's going there for the nationwide news he gets, as well as the nationwide news he got when he went to Wildwood. Now, other candidates...
And the bodega in the Bronx.
Sure.
Yeah.
Now, I know other candidates have blown it, really, by they were not in contention. No one was really paying attention to what they did, and they just happened to spend time and money in blue states, New Jersey, for example, New York.
Yeah.
And you're not going to get there, and you don't get any bang for your buck if people aren't watching all the time. But things are different with Trump. When he shows up in an unlikely place, it's a big deal. I mean, 100,000 people, that's a lot of people. I would do that five times again, and I'm sure this is going to be the same way in the Bronx. So,
yeah, it won't be as big. There's something about, and you've been there. There's something about Wildwood and Trump and what comes out in this part of the state. It's not going to be that big in terms of numbers, but it's going to be a very big crowd. They're expecting like 3,500 people, which means it's probably going to be more than that.
Yeah.
That's still very good, though. And you compare that to what Joe Biden just did in New Hampshire. It was one of the most embarrassing things I've ever seen, John, and I'm not trying to be unkind. They were socially distanced like it was still a pandemic, and there were a couple dozen people. That was his rally in New Hampshire.
Yeah.
Trump's going big. Biden, by definition, they're going small. They said he should only speak very few words and appear before very small crowds. I mean, they've decided to go small.
Yeah. There are a lot of things. We have to be careful about the criticism of Biden because of his slip-ups and mental slips and reading the teleprompter wrong. We did the same thing in the last election, and then he showed up at the debates, did a pretty good job,
and then that made it like that it didn't.
It was
exist.
a big win. I mean, it's. I think it's very foolish to hammer on that. Just let him do it and let the people see him.
Well, here's the thing, though.
The left-wing commentators say that stuff,
but they've been denying that the issue exists. So I don't agree that you say nothing about it. And 4 years ago it was one thing. He has degraded. I'm not qualified to say what percentage, but there's been a precipitous drop in terms of his mental acuity over the past 3.5, 4 years. So I think it can't be ignored, but I know what you're saying.
Yeah. I mean, I think one reason the last election was lost was because all anyone talked about, well, not all anyone talked about, but half of the discussion on conservative media, for example, was Biden's incompetent, Biden's old, Biden's brain is gone, Biden's suffering dementia. And then he got up for, an hour? The debate was, hour and a half, on a couple of occasions, and did a competent job.
Well, Trump made a very bad mistake. He didn't allow Biden to speak. That made it seem like Biden was more with it than he is, because all he kept saying was, shut up, man. You won't stop. And so Trump has to let Biden speak.
Yeah.
He's not going to have a teleprompter. He's not going to have whatever notes you can real fast write down on that notepad when you've seen it. They get to the podium and they start writing really fast because they have some things that they want to make sure they don't forget, because you get jazzed up and you get going. I think there's a really good chance the debates won't happen. Biden's going to come up with either Trump is a convicted felon, I can't do this, or Trump says I have to have a drug test. I tried. You can't. He's an animal. You can't work with this guy. I think Biden wants his cake and eat it too. He wants to make it look like he challenged Trump, and Trump is the reason why he can't debate Trump. That's my prediction.
Maybe.
And he avoided. How about this? Usually you think about somebody like Biden that they would be very respectful of the institutions. Joe Biden completely disrespected the Presidential Debate Commission.
Sure.
That was terrible, what he did.
He really is amoral, in my opinion. I mean,
I agree.
He'll do anything.
Correct.
Anything to win.
Yeah.
Anything to stay in office and be cool. It's
that's what the lawfare is all about.
Yeah.
And let's
anything.
Let's touch on that after the break, if you don't mind, and then please,
sure.
The time is yours. I want to know what you think. This Judge Merchan, John, I've had enough of this guy. He doesn't let the former chairman of the Federal Election Commission testify, but he lets David Pecker and Michael Cohen cite federal election law. I'm gobsmacked about how corrupt and dishonest this guy has been, in my view. We'll see what John thinks when we come back. And also letting the jury go away unsequestered for 8 days. How would you like that? 5 weeks you put a case on, and then just everybody goes, and let's see. It's like the kids when you send them back from Christmas vacation. Teachers will tell you, we got to start teaching all over again.
Sure. Because,
the kids got out of school, out of practice. We'll be back. Don't go away.
You're waking up with Hurley in the morning.
Established, reputable.
WPG Talk Radio 95.5. Starting your day the right way with Hurley in the morning on South Jersey's talk station. WPG Talk Radio 95.5. Hurley in the morning.
They really do separate fact from fiction.
WPG Talk Radio.
That's what we do.
95.5.
You got to do it in these crazy times. John Zarek continues Smart Law with John Zarek. Your interpretation of Judge Juan Merchan.
Yeah, I mean, he's a political guy. New York, let me tell you what New York is like. I handled a case in New York some years ago, 100 Center Street, Manhattan. That's where it's like a skyscraper. And, the first thing you notice when you handle a case in New York, they don't let you up until, say, 8:30. So the lobby is crammed with people.
Waiting.
Loud, lawyers, prosecutors, everyone. In touching distance, John Kennedy, who was a prosecutor, was there. Kunstler was there. His assistant, Kuby, was there.
I remember Kuby.
Yeah.
His mommy was a commie.
Yeah.
Ron Kuby.
Yeah. Right. And in my mind's eye, Gotti's original lawyer, the bald-headed guy who beat the government so often that they disqualified him.
Yeah.
Which is cool. Yeah. So, and plus lots of other people were jammed in. A madhouse. So everybody, it's time to go up. The elevator's open. Everyone goes up to their respective floors. Now, it's multiple floors of courtrooms. I don't know how many, 15 floors, whatever. The bathrooms are a total disaster. No toilet paper, no anything, graffiti all over, doors knocked off the bathroom. The courtroom doors are broken, the locks and everything. They have chains to keep them closed. They open them up, everybody goes in. I'm waiting for my case to be called, and a prosecutor stands up. The judge calls a case. The prosecutor stands up, and the judge says, "Yeah, you and your creep boss." He's screaming at the prosecutor. Well, he's in another party or another faction of the Democratic Party, the prosecutor. And the prosecutor says, "Yeah, if you had half a brain in your head, you know what you'd be doing. You wouldn't have that problem. Nobody cares about you. This is a prosecutor and a judge screaming at each other." And the reason I took another prosecutor aside. I said, what's going on? He said, this judge, I'm not even sure he's a lawyer. I'm not even sure he's a lawyer. And if he is, he certainly has never practiced law. And he's just been a political operative all his time. That's how he got the job.
There you go.
And the prosecutor, of course, I don't know where he stood, but they're just openly screaming. Everybody knows it's a madhouse.
Wow.
That's what and in fact, the same judge is up there, and everyone's walking around the well. The well is, there's the bar, where you're not allowed past that unless you're a lawyer, judge, whatever. And there's a big space there, the well, between that bar, that railing, and the judge. People are walking around. This is while cases are going on, while appearances are going on and so forth. People are walking around. They're calling across. They're interrupting. It was a madhouse, So I said, this is the first time I'd been in New York. Been subsequent, but this was number one. So my case gets called. I said, Your Honor, can I approach? And he said, sure. So I go up, and he was generally a good guy besides battling with the prosecutor. So I go up, and I lean over, and I said, Judge, I've never, and this was not a crucial part of the case. It was the first call, so it wasn't that important. So I said, Judge, I'm from the sticks in South Jersey. I've never seen anything like this. But I didn't say it in an accusatory way. It was like, this is something.
This was eye-opening.
And I said, I've never seen anything like this. And I really don't know what I'm doing here at this point. And he said, don't worry, nobody else does either.
That's great.
That
is so good.
And he said, we'll take care. Don't worry, we'll take care of you. And my client had a pound of cocaine or something, and he got 6 months probation or some ridiculous thing. But it was just, I think the judge and the prosecutor just thought, no, this guy's not bad. We'll give him a break.
Yet Juan Merchan, he's telling Robert Costello, don't ever give me the side eye again. He had the thinnest skin in the world over Costello. Just the opposite of that.
Nobody had thin skin
yelling at the other guy. Oh my God, he was terrible. Yeah. So what do you think of 8 days? I think he purposely did it because I think there was time for the jury to get the case, maybe even have a verdict before the holiday. But he sends them away for 8 days, unsequestered. Would that be a problem for you?
Unprecedented.
Yes.
In my opinion.
Yes.
I mean, unprecedented. That, at least, even if there was going to be delay, they would be there.
Yeah.
In the jury room waiting. Never heard of it. Don't understand why.
Well, I'll tell you why I think it is. I think he saw that they lost. Merchan did everything he could to try to push the prosecution over the top. Their case was terrible. Each witness was worse than the one before. Michael Cohen was a disaster. They got Michael Cohen to admit that he stole $30,000 from the Trump organization. He admitted to a crime that was far worse than any crime that was officially on that, in that courtroom. He knew they lost, so he wants 8 days to just forget everything you knew. And we'll see you in 8 days, and let's see if I can instruct you in such a way. Because he's talking about not even giving them firm instructions, like they can find Trump guilty 3 different ways, and all this craziness. And what did you think about him not allowing the former chairman of the Federal Election Commission to be a witness?
Yeah, there's no reason for that.
Who does that?
There's no reason for that.
Unless you're corrupt.
Yeah, there's no reason for that. That's the guy who's an expert who knows what's going on.
He let people that aren't experts testify on FEC law.
Yeah, on the election law. So this is a guy who actually knows the law and knows how it works. And no, he didn't want him to testify because that would have helped Trump.
Do you think, based on everything that you've been following, and we don't know, I don't know the composition of the jury, if it's 12 people that hate Trump and they'll nullify, the case and find him guilty or whatever. But do you have a feel for whether you think he will be found not guilty, guilty, or a hung jury?
If there's a God in heaven, he'll be found not guilty. I mean, I don't see how he could be convicted under these circumstances.
What about what we don't know what his instructions, though, are to the jury? Yeah. He might have some novel thing, and they'll say, well, we don't think he willfully did this, and we don't think he did that. And these witnesses said that, Costello said that Trump was concerned about his family. And, of course, if he would have done it, if he wasn't running, then there's no election violation. But, John, how are they even doing a federal election violation in that court? It's just, this is bizarre that this is happening.
Yeah. There are certain circumstances where a case in, say, New Jersey could make reference to federal law. For example,
but in a state court, you cannot find someone guilty of a federal crime.
No.
And that's what they're doing here.
Well, in a sense, here's how it would work in New Jersey with regard to tax law, for example. So the federal government prosecutes tax evasion, and they typically go after big cases, a lot of money, a lot of, maybe $100,000 of penalties, something like that. They'll go after. They don't, but smaller cases, $5,000, $10,000, they typically would not prosecute. But if it's turned up, they could turn it over to the state, and the state could process it as a simple theft. So it's a theft of money from the federal government. And they do that, They do that in New Jersey. So they'll determine, these taxes were due, or this withholding was due, or something like that.
But here they
didn't pay it.
Here the federal government did review, the DOJ and the FEC. They all reviewed it and did not bring charges. Bragg did this on his own.
He did.
And how about this, though, John? I thought you had to tell someone what they're being charged with. They've done an entire trial, and they still don't know what this charge is.
Yeah, they know what the charge is. That they know what the statute is. He doesn't know precisely what part of the statute he's supposed to have violated.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, it is crazy.
How can you defend yourself when they don't tell you what you're defending yourself from?
You can't very well.
And they didn't give the witnesses, came in like at the last second. They didn't tell them who the witnesses would be. Now, you could guess who the witnesses might be. I've never witnessed something so biased, so blatantly biased.
That's an anomaly of New York law. And another case in New York was, my client was involved in a shootout in a drug dealing place. The gangs will rent an apartment, and that's where they'll do drug deals. And so in the apartment were two guys with a lot of guns and a lot of cocaine in this case. I mean, a lot, 20 kilos, something like that. And my client allegedly and another fellow went in. Now, everyone is armed all the time in this type of business, right? They went in and they, were prepared to do a deal, and they said, or the government said, and one person moved too quickly, and the other person moved quickly, and they all started shooting.
Wow.
Allegedly. So, one person killed, a couple paralyzed. It was a pretty bad scene. So in New York, you don't get the evidence. You don't get the police reports until trial. Like you get discovery at trial, basically, or right before. So maybe they'll give it to you the day before, a couple of days before, so that they're not held up. Because you have to have some time when you get it, you have to have some time to look at it and deal with it. So, and you get the experts are there, and you get to talk to the experts. So one of the experts obviously was a ballistics expert, and so he's showing me the ballistics report, and in the cushions, in the walls, in the ceiling, in the floor, he had laid out all the calibers of slugs that they got out of the apartment. So it was 9 millimeters, 45s, 38s, 32s, 22s, 357, everything. So 200 slugs maybe that they got out of the floor, the cushions, the ceiling, whatever.
Allegedly. I'm just teasing.
Yeah. And I said, wait a second. The dealers had two 40 caliber handguns. our clients allegedly had 2 9mm handguns. Where did all the... Now, think of living this way.
Yeah.
Think of this kind of life. I said to the, detective, where did all the other slugs come from? He looked at me and he said, John, they came from the last 20 shootouts they had in that drug den.
There you go.
Right. Now, that's what happens.
Wow.
That's what happens on a regular basis. And these guys, knowing that there's shootouts there all the time, still, for greed, go into a place and are ready to do another shootout. Very likely have another shootout.
Wow.
For money.
John, we're 5 minutes late for the break. We're going to be right back. Don't go away. It is Smart Law with John Zarek. We'll be right back.
This is the Town Square, New Jersey Info and Weather Network.
It is 35 minutes past the hour. Harry Hurley, 3 stories that you can follow right now on our WPG Talk Radio 95.5 app. The Atlantic City Education Association, so the union boss, sold out the membership, allegedly, to the benefit of the criminally charged superintendent. You can read all about that. And we have an update on what I call chutzpah involving this individual and an award ceremony. And an Atlantic City agency is under federal criminal investigation. We'll further that later.
From the Town Square, New Jersey Info and Weather Network, I'm Chief Meteorologist Dan Zarrow. It's a warm, sticky, summerish morning. Temperatures starting off in the 60s at least. Radars lighting up with some thunderstorms over Pennsylvania. Looks like those will hold off here in South Jersey until this afternoon at the earliest. Mostly cloudy and humid today, high of 80. Continuing chance of a shower or thunderstorm tonight, low 64. A shower tomorrow morning, then clearing skies and falling humidity, high back to 80. Get weather 24/7 wherever you are. Download our free mobile app today. This is an important safety.
You're waking up with Hurley in the morning on South Jersey's talk station, WPG Talk Radio 95.5 and the WPG Talk Radio app. You're waking up with Hurley in the morning.
Makes me think about things a little bit differently.
WPG Talk Radio 95.5.
Thank you. Welcome back. Elise Stefanik has filed ethics charges against Mershon. He should not be allowed to get away with what he's done here. This is regardless of if the jury, acquits President Trump or if it's a hung jury. I would imagine if it's a hung jury, Alvin Bragg will immediately announce they're retrying the case.
Oh, of course.
You agree, right?
Tie him up as much as possible.
Exactly.
I mean, he has his marching orders. He knows what's going on.
Yeah.
He knows what makes the president happy. He wants to be deputy attorney general or something that he's not qualified for.
And
this is his big shot.
Colangelo's there. He left like third highest position in the Justice Department. Who does that? Nobody goes that direction. You start there and hope you get to there. So that's all obviously transparent that this is a Biden, Merrick Garland driven issue with Trump. If Trump is convicted and because, they judge shopped, jurisdiction shopped, I'm not ruling out there's 2 attorneys on this panel. If they're a runaway jury and they say, look, he is guilty of these things, we got to find him guilty. We got to do our job. You can't worry about what anybody thinks. We got to do this. I think you'll agree with me. 2 attorneys could be very persuasive on that jury.
Very much so.
And anybody wants to say, it could go the other way, too. They can be very persuasive. Go watch the movie Runaway Jury, and you'll see what I'm talking about, how persuasive someone can be when they're, heck bent set to do that. If Trump is convicted, and I'm praying it's not the case, but it's my nightmare scenario that I'm not going to be shocked if he is, based on how unfair this whole thing has been. And I believe the jury hasn't been, dealt with correctly, and I think the jury instructions are not going to be correct. So I'm very worried about this, very, very worried. How long would an appeal take, in your opinion?
Oh, it could take a year.
Well, that's terrible. I knew you were going to say that.
9 months, whatever.
So then it's ball game, because if he's convicted, they're going to be able to say, and I know newsrooms all over the country are going to instruct their writers, every time you write about President Trump, you put former President Donald Trump, convicted felon. I mean, this is their nirvana. It's what they want.
Yeah, I don't, I just know that they're willing to do anything to keep Donald Trump from beating Joe Biden, which in an even game he would do handily.
There's no question.
Without any problem.
But that's not this.
Yeah.
Now,
I'll tell you especially why I say that. It was a question before, like I was saying, year and a half, 2 years ago, if the hardline Republicans, and I'm a hardline Republican, so get it clear, if the hard right Republicans keep defunding Ukraine and being against the war and so forth and being sort of pro-Russia winning, if that keeps up, then the Republicans are going to be, and that included President Trump at the time, that's going to result in the Republicans losing the presidency, the House, and the Senate.
Yeah.
And
I didn't buy it at
finally,
the time, but I know why you mean it.
Finally, they came around.
Yeah.
They saw eventually, the Speaker certainly saw it, most Republicans in the Congress and Senate saw it. In the Senate and the House saw it, and eventually President Trump saw it. He finally did say, it's important. The survival of Ukraine is important to the United States.
And then the votes came,
right?
Because
and he was
followed
right.
The leader.
Yeah, he gave the okay for the $61 billion. So,
what are the obviously, Elise Stefanik has filed an ethics complaint and things like that.
She could be president, by the way.
Oh, yeah. What remedy is there for the actions of a judge like Juan Merchan? What can you do?
Well, he can be brought up on ethics charges. I don't know.
But the New York game's rigged.
Yeah, they're not going to. They're not going to do that,
right?
I mean,
they allowed him to stay on the case. This guy made a contribution, and his daughter is a Democrat operative, very adverse to Trump. Any judge that's not corrupt would say, even the appearance of a conflict, I'm just not going to be on this case. He wanted to be on this case.
Sure. If you're out of control, but you have political support, then you can stay out of control.
Yeah, and they supported him to stay on the case.
Yeah.
They approved it.
Yeah, New York is, however, Fareed Zakaria, CNN, very, I'd say, hard left guy. He had pointed out that this prosecution, we have to realize that this prosecution wouldn't have been brought but for Donald Trump being the defendant.
No doubt.
And which was, I thought, pretty courageous.
Yeah.
And I think
the Democrat media has been pretty objective about Michael Cohen being disastrous and, a lot of things that we've been talking about this case. Yeah. They've been fairly objective about it.
Yeah, and Jake Tapper made a similar comment, and a number of other, CNN. I don't know that anybody on MSNBC, really has come out that strong.
MSNBC actually defended Michael Cohen stealing the $30,000.
Well, he wasn't stealing.
They called it rebalancing.
He was rebalancing his bonus. That's what he was doing.
You got it, John. Come on. Break.
Well, that's what commies are good at. Commies are good at that.
They just reinvent the language. We'll be right back. Don't go away. Rebalancing.
Starting your day the right way with Hurley in the morning.
We need to just listen to the facts.
WPG Talk Radio 95.5. You're waking up with Hurley in the morning.
Egg Harbor Township, Ocean City, Goshen, Cape May.
WPG Talk Radio 95.5 and the WPG Talk Radio app.
Coming up after the top of the hour, we have Dr. Vez from Atlantic Care Regional Medical Center. It's Stroke Awareness Month, the month of May. We're going to be talking about that, neurosciences, all kinds of important stuff. And then right after Dr. Vez, fresh off of his testimony yesterday before the United States House of Representatives, Matt Doherty, who just didn't couch it at all, called it corrupt, called it the Atlantic City Housing Authority, the biggest slumlord in the state of New Jersey. He just let it rip. We'll interview Matt Doherty coming up at 9:40 this morning. We continue with John Zarek. It is Smart Law with John Zarek. Counselor, time is yours.
Yeah, I want to always mention the war in Ukraine, the Russian invasion, the Russian atrocities. It's, they're still doing the same thing. They're still murdering, torturing, raping every place they go. Every time they take over a territory, same thing. There was they took over a town recently, and maybe there were 50 people left in that town. They took over. Actually, they took over a town that Mark and I had worked in the past. Delivered humanitarian stuff there. Typically, the scene you get close to the Russian border. This one was about 50 or 100 yards away. There were maybe 50 people left. They have wood stoves, but no food, no water, and no medicine.
Wow.
But they won't leave. That's their home. And these are usually much older people that just can't psychologically move. And
they need help.
Yeah. So those people, we and other groups constantly run things into them, and that's part of where your money went, Harry, and a lot of other people who donated went to support people like that. Now, the Russians in this latest offensive, right, we had 6 months without American aid and weapons. So naturally, that's going to result in the Russians being able to make some gains, some incremental gains, but nothing major, but enough to take over those border towns. And one of those towns that was taken over, I think there were 100 people left in the town, or 100 men left in the town. And the Russians announced yesterday they're going to execute all of them because they're all, spies or whatever they think they are, a bunch of old people. So, they're really brutal. It's like a throwback. Russia's like a throwback to the Middle Ages, where extreme brutality rules. And they've always raped, tortured, and killed everywhere they went. And they still do it today. If they take over area and there are civilians there, they will rape, torture, and kill the civilians. That's for sure. So, pretty despicable regime. But the country's been that way for hundreds and hundreds of years. And if you complain, their attitude is, well, don't challenge Russia. If you don't want to get raped and killed, and tortured, don't challenge Russia. They won't have any problem. So it's an organized instrument of war. Of course, they deny everything at the top. And, so that's what we're dealing with. So,
yeah, the irony there is they did not challenge Russia. Russia attacked them.
Yeah, sure. Right.
I mean, they would have, they just leave us alone. They didn't want to do this.
Yeah. But according to Lavrov and Putin, that, it was the Ukrainians that started the war.
And as you talk all the time about is Russia is good with their propaganda.
Yeah, they're A1. In fact, a group did a very, very good paper recently on saying what I've been saying for a long time, and our friends have been saying for a long time. We need a very, very organized counter-propaganda directorate or command where that stuff gets jumped on immediately, because Russia just keeps spouting it out. And, there are people that I was talking to a young fella recently. His mother and father-in-law are from Belarus. And they are, all they've heard all their life is Lukashenko, the leader, saying how great Russia is, how great, he is and his regime, and how bad the United States and so forth. So they don't know any better. They think Russia's swell because that's what they hear.
So, unbelievable.
Yeah. So I just want to make sure we have nonprofit Ukraine Humanitarian Inc. Mark and I organized it, and we get money donated here. You've been one of the biggest donors, Harry. You always come through. with not
cause.
hundreds of dollars, thousands of dollars, and we appreciate it.
It's a great cause.
It is a great cause, and and there's no waste, there's no muss or fuss. We don't take salaries. We pay for our own transportation.
You get the money and what the money is capable of providing, life-saving materials. You get them into the hands of the people that need it.
Absolutely.
It's so good what you're doing. Feels good, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's great. I've often said I am so grateful, so grateful that I've been able to really have to be part of a great cause, a really great cause. Yeah. And that's what the Ukrainian cause is. I mean, this is the West, United States fighting against Russia, and the Ukrainians are doing the fighting and dying.
And this is also the prevention of World War III.
Exactly.
I mean, I pretty much stop people. I don't hear about it as much as I used to. Harry, why are you in support of that? I said, well, let me ask you this. Are you in support of World War III?
Yeah.
And they all say, no. And this concerned look. I said, well, what do you think happens if Russia is permitted to defeat Ukraine? Because the only way that happens is if we don't support Ukraine. So if we don't do that and Russia beats Ukraine, do you think Russia stops there?
Yeah.
Or logically, would Poland be next? And, of course, Poland is a UN or a NATO, rather, country. And then it's one for all for one. We're signed onto that doctrine. And then I welcome you to World War III.
Sure.
We got to stop this. And it's still the right thing to do on its face anyhow.
Sure. It's the right thing to do on its face. But
it's good guys versus bad guys.
But we'll have to look at the strategic picture, because there are a lot of right things to do that we can't do.
Well said.
That we can't do.
Well said.
But this is one where we have to do it.
Yeah.
And we have to do it because Russia is the enemy. Russia's half of our defense budget, $400 billion is to control Russia. And
when you win the Cold War and then you let things degrade, all that progress can be gone.
Sure.
So it's so important what you're talking about. We have just under 3 minutes in your program. How are things going at the present time?
Stabilized. Stabilized. Things were really rough. The Russians were, when you don't have weapons, you don't have ammunition, the other guy's got ammunition, you can't stand there and let them shoot you down. So
it was fish in a barrel, wasn't it?
There were some, it wasn't, because the Ukrainians would be strategic.
Because they can fight.
They'd pull back to secure positions. They kill a lot of Russians, then they'd pull back a little more. Same thing happened at Bakhmut. They gutted the Russian army.
But they had to get very strategic. They weren't able to be as aggressive and as forward as they were. They had to get strategic.
The next thing now that has to be done, and we all should support this, is right now Russia can stand. Kharkiv is a city, second biggest city in Ukraine. It's right on the Russian border near Belgorod, Russia, 9 miles from Belgorod. So the Russians now are flying planes in their territory and releasing these glide bombs. They're big bombs, big dumb bombs with fins on them and a little guidance. And they hit, and they're very, very devastating. And they can just do it with impunity.
Yeah.
They have no fear of anything, because the United States and some others have said, you can't use our weapons inside of Russia. Well, that's like, Harry, you're at the door, you open the door,
but you can't go in.
You open the door, and the bad guy punches you in the nose, and you're not allowed to punch back because it would cross the plane.
Yeah, it's like
so that obviously
Mershon's courtroom.
That has to end. England, Great Britain, other countries have said no. That's stupid, and so that's
you're putting handcuffs on the good guys.
Yeah, if you shoot your stuff into Ukraine can shoot their stuff out of Ukraine. It's
20 seconds.
Not Americans doing it, but that's the way it's got to go down.
Excellent, John. How do people reach you with the charity?
You can call my office, 609-641-2266. We'll guide you. Or you can look up Ukraine Humanitarian Inc. or UkraineHumanitarian.org and make a donation right on the website, or you can call my office or send a check to my office.
Great to be with you, John. Thank you,
Harry.
You know it.
WPGG Atlantic City, WENJ HD3 Millville, a Town Square media station. Everything you need to know in 6 minutes starts now. From Harry Hurley Way in the world's playground to the broadcast pioneers of Philadelphia Hall of Fame, you're about to find out why Harry Hurley has been named to the Talkers Magazine list of the 100 most important talk show hosts in the nation. Live from the studios of Town Square Media in Northfield, it's Hurley in the Morning on WPG Talk Radio 95.5 and the WPG Talk Radio app.
It is not even 6 minutes past the hour, so we will gratefully accept a few extra seconds here with Dr. Vez, who will be with us for the next 30 minutes. And in focus of the fact that the month of May is Stroke Awareness Month, we're going to talk about stroke. We're going to talk about the neurosciences program at Atlanticare. And Atlanticare Regional Medical Center presents Dr. Vez this half hour, who's an internationally renowned vascular neurosurgeon. And Dr. Vez, I want you to know, I talk to our audience all the time about how blessed we are that right here in our region, we have the finest care that you can get anywhere, that in days gone by, people would think they have to drive a half a tank of gas, a full tank of gas away, 60 miles away, 120 miles away, Cleveland Clinic, and now the incredible care that we have right here because of people like you. Dr. Errol Vez is our guest this half hour on Atlanticare Presents. He is very talented, renowned neurosurgeon and the Robert A. Groff Chair of Neurosurgery at Drexel University College of Medicine. Dr. Vez is the founder of the Drexel Neuroscience Institute and president and CEO of the Global Neurosciences Institute, clinical partner of Atlanticare's Neurosciences Institute. Dr. Vez is uniquely trained in both traditional and endovascular neurosurgery, offering comprehensive treatment options for his patients. He has authored numerous peer-reviewed articles, holds several patents, and is the co-primary investigator of the Trevo Registry. And if it's Trevo, doctor, please forgive me, sin of the mind, not of the heart. The largest prospective trial for intra-arterial stroke treatment. Dr. Vez also played a pivotal role in the DAWN trial, revolutionizing treatment options for late presenting stroke patients, a prolific lecturer and recognized as a top doc. He has significantly advanced neuroscience care delivery, particularly in New Jersey, and that we're very grateful and we're very fortunate. He's established specialized care units and research programs. Dr. Vez's contributions to neurosurgery and patient care have earned him widespread acclaim from both peers and patients. Dr. Vez, I'm not saying this to be just kind. I mean, your background is incredible, and I'm looking forward to our time this morning together.
Likewise.
So let's start. Tell us why and what drew you to Atlanticare's neurosciences program.
Sure. So, we've been in the area. I've been in the area for, 25 years. I started my career off at Jefferson, and we've served that community for decades. And just watching the development of Atlanticare from the neurosciences to what it is today has been really remarkable. And you had mentioned it, having, a comprehensive stroke program, and we'll talk a little bit about that this morning, how important it is. But what a great job that they've done of putting these pieces together, and especially the new leadership now. And, we just started talking, and, it was a natural fit for what we're doing, both academically, clinically, and what the infrastructure that Atlanticare has built over the last 10 years within the neurosciences.
Dr. Vez, sidebar, because I know we've got a lot of content that we're going to cover in the time that we have, but I want to give you an opportunity to comment on what I thought was really a truly dynamic, forward thinking. See, I'm a big fan. If you're a business person, you should be looking at your current budget. You should be looking at the previous budget, and you should be looking at the budget that's ahead. So looking at 3 budgets at any one time, 3 years at any one time. And with AtlantiCare's Vision 2030, we're talking about looking out 6 years. Michael Charlton was, I thought, masterclass in the presentation, and you were, I believe, a very significant part. You were highlighted during that Vision 2030 program. What were your thoughts about the vision?
I mean, really, honestly, and it's not hyperbole. I'm not just saying this because, we're talking on a radio show. I mean, it's nothing short of brilliant. And I think the community really needs to understand and put in context what Michael Charlton and his team has done is almost unprecedented. You're talking about 6 months, and he has secured Cleveland Clinic to come, not to come and take over and do a lot of these partnerships where the larger institute comes and just kind of monopolizes, but to truly partner very specifically for oncologic care, which is desperately needed. Oracle, which is a whole nother taking things to the next level for the future of what we can do with AI in healthcare. And then, really having the vision to understand that we are not going to be average anymore. We're not going to just, be serving the communities first and foremost, but we want to be leaders. And, the time frame that he's done this is really remarkable.
Could not agree more, and that's why I wanted to do that little sidebar. AtlantiCare Regional Medical Center is presenting Dr. Vez this half hour, and we're talking about stroke awareness. We're talking about AtlantiCare's neurosciences program, and we're going to get into a lot of this over the time that we have with Dr. Vez. What are some of the most significant advancements that we can expect, Dr. Vez, from AtlantiCare's neurosciences program in the future, in the near future?
Yeah, so that's a great question, and I'll give you 2 examples on each end of the spectrum. So we're going to start on something that may not sound so cutting edge, but is desperately needed. And I think your audience would agree. Healthcare in a lot of ways is broken, and it's broken in the sense of we've kind of lost, I think, the human touch, and we've lost the ability to go to speak to your healthcare provider and get clear answers, and not, people pointing fingers to, well, what did your other doctor say? And, oh, I didn't know you had this study. So one of the first things that we instituted in the hospital, when any patient comes in with any type of neurologic diagnosis, there is a specialized team, and not just neuro people. So internal medicine doctors, nurses, pharmacy, rehab, social work, but also neurosurgeons, neurologists, the critical care doctors. We round as a team throughout the hospital for every single patient that has a diagnosis. Sometimes it's 30, 40 patients. The families get to meet the entire team. Hi, I'm Dr. Smith. I'm going to be taking care of you in the ICU while you're here. This is Dr. Vez. He's going to be taking care of you after. Everybody is connected. And I can tell you the numbers that we've seen just in a month of that change has been remarkable. And the patients, it's a little sad to me. I'm an old guy, where patients are actually grateful for the fact that, their team members are talking to them and discussing a plan. And when they get discharged, they have a plan to be seen in the office. So that's the one end of, I think the foundation. But from a kind of more technical aspect, one of the things that we're really excited about starting is deep brain stimulation. So, and I'd love to have you come down and visit sometime, and you can see these things that are just, truly remarkable. Patients that have Parkinson's disease, they can't walk, they can't write, they can't hold a cup of coffee.
Wow.
We can do surgery now. We can do awake surgery where we can stimulate certain areas of the brain and literally within 2 hours, get rid of the tremor. Wow. It is remarkable. And the really exciting thing is we're working with, I don't know how many people know, but AtlantiCare also has one of the largest behavioral health programs anywhere. And we've tapped into some of those brilliant folks. And there's data now showing that we can actually probably start treating depression. We know we can treat things like OCD, Tourette syndrome, because we know the pathways in the brain. So that to me is one of the most exciting things. And I'm a vascular neurosurgeon, and that's what gets me excited.
AtlantiCare Regional Medical Center presents Dr. Vez, and this month of May is Stroke Awareness Month. We have written about this in an extensive article on our digital platform, and I've talked about it, Dr. Vez, on air as well, that AtlantiCare operates the only comprehensive stroke center in southeastern New Jersey. What does this mean? I mean, it sounds like Captain Obvious when you say it like that. It's the only game in town, and it's such an important game in town. What does that mean for residents?
No, and it's not an obvious thing because I'll put it in context. When someone's having a stroke, when that artery closes and the brain tissue is starved of oxygen, every minute, 2 million brain cells die. So think about that. Wow. Every 60 seconds, 2 million brain cells are dying. So the fact that we have this center of excellence, and I'm going to give you some actual numbers, from the time that somebody hits the door, a patient with a stroke, within 30 minutes, they're on a table with a catheter in their artery. And that number, I can tell you, holds up. It's probably the top 3 in the country. I mean, I don't have that exact data, but I know from my colleagues in the national data. From the time that EMS, from the time the ambulance shows up to someone's home who's having a stroke, to the time that we get them on the table and put that needle is 1 hour.
Wow.
Now, let's put that in context. There was just an article in the Philadelphia Inquirer about 2 weeks ago talking about Penn's stratification of wanting, to get everything concentrated into the main center. And they highlighted a patient out in Bucks County who is going to church, had a stroke, and they highlighted that it took her 2 hours to get from Bucks County to downtown Philadelphia to the hospital alone. So that's just travel time. So anybody in that community is getting immediate care, and our outcomes, I think, speak for themselves.
The 2 hours alone, and I followed very closely what you were saying, Dr. Vez, if you take the millions of losses that happen every 60 seconds, that would be times 120, just the travel there that you mentioned.
That's exactly right.
So, yeah,
that's exactly right.
That is huge. We will take our one and only break, and now we're going to go, when we come back, uninterrupted until 36 minutes past the hour with Dr. Vez as AtlantiCare Regional Medical Center presents this comprehensive discussion in awareness of May as Stroke Month and also the Neurosciences program at AtlantiCare. When we come back, we're going to talk about how does AtlantiCare's partnership with the Global Neurosciences Institute enhance the level of care provided to patients, as we continue with Dr. Vez right after this. And coming up after Dr. Vez, Matt Doherty, who testified before the United States House of Representatives yesterday, will speak this morning right here on the Hurley in the Morning program. And, I mean, he put on a clinic. I mean, it was a masterclass in the lack of proper attention and service that's happening with the Atlantic City Housing Authority. Very dynamic discussion with Matt coming up after Dr. Vez. We'll be back in just a few minutes.
Hurley in the Morning.
Harry Hurley is the only person on the radio who isn't afraid to speak the truth about what's really happening in Atlantic City.
WPG Talk Radio 95.5. Hurley in the Morning.
They always have great conversation.
WPG Talk Radio 95.5.
Welcome back. 20 minutes past the hour. We have 16 minutes. We're going to make it count. A lot of important content with Dr. Vez that he will be imparting as AtlantiCare Regional Medical Center presents Dr. Vez in a wide-ranging discussion about Stroke Awareness Month, about AtlantiCare's Neurosciences program, which we continue now with our next topic for Dr. Vez. How does AtlantiCare's partnership with the Global Neurosciences Institute enhance the level of care provided to patients?
So, what we're bringing is a group of subspecialists, and as well some of the protocols and things that we have been doing in the past, clinical trials, research. Not to mention also our partnership with Drexel University College of Medicine, where we can bring some of the brightest and best from all the different schools as well. But the main thing to keep in mind is most centers will have 2 or 3 doctors. They're on call. They're kind of rotating through. This brings a lot of depth. We're talking about 8 neurosurgeons, 12 neurologists, a whole team of people, and more importantly, subspecialization. So things like I was talking about, the deep brain stimulation or functional neurosurgery, as it's called, but also things for Alzheimer's disease, stroke experts, tumor experts, And then if you start thinking about how that's going to all meld in with the partnership with Cleveland Clinic, the branch campus that's going to be there at Drexel University College of Medicine, it's a perfect fit. It's not just a couple doctors covering a service, but, a whole team of experts coming to work with the excellence that's already there.
Dr. Vez, at the beginning of our program, I mentioned how in days gone by, people, if they heard they had a significant heart issue, or cancer, needed, the neurosciences. You were very, very fast, resigned to the fact that you're going 60 miles away, you're going to Philadelphia, you're going to New York, wherever, but you're not staying here. I preface that was the way it used to be. It's not the way that it is anymore. I can say this, and I've written about it as well. Atlanticare Regional Medical Center, absolutely, it's quantifiable. I can prove it. They saved my brother's life. There's no question about it. And years ago, he would have been heading to Philadelphia for sure. But this all took place at Atlanticare, just world class. Everything went perfect, and his life was saved. Why should patients, in your estimation, Dr. Vez, choose Atlanticare for their neurological care instead of traveling to Philadelphia?
Well, it's a great question, and I really want to spend a minute or so on this because it's not just the distance. The distance when you're talking about emergent care, absolutely, I think common sense dictates that we're there. We have, again, better outcomes we'll put up against anyone. But I would say that overall, you're going to get better care. And this is no knock on any of my colleagues or the great institutions in the city of Philadelphia. But what I was just describing is a very unique process. You compare it, from a McDonald's where there's a process with thousands of people, thousands of protocols. You're driving into a city, into a very large center. There's residents, there's fellows, there's students. It's really easy to get lost in that, especially when you're a patient who has, a very serious diagnosis within the neurosciences, be it, a brain tumor, a stroke, an aneurysm in your brain. This concept is the best doctors. I would tell everybody to go online and look at the CVs of every one of these physicians.
Yeah.
But these are people that this is their sole focus. Everything is concentrated under one roof, and you get this concept. And I don't like using the word community hospital anymore. I think we're going to be explaining to our grandchildren what a community hospital was, because Atlanticare clearly is not a community hospital. It's within the community, but it is functioning probably at a higher level than many university hospitals. So I think that level of care, that level of knowing who your doctor is, of when there's a problem and you have to come back to the hospital for either through an emergency room or you need an urgent visit, that's a game changer.
What a great answer. Dr. Vez continues, elaborate on how Atlanticare has managed to decrease treatment times and actually improve outcomes for neurological patients.
Well, like we talked about, our door-to-needle times and, what we call EMS to needle times or opening vessel times, they're amongst the best in the nation. And it is because of the relationship we have with EMS. It is because of the infrastructure within the hospital system, and it's really the talent of the doctors and nurses and surgeons as well. And some of the things that we're doing that no one else is doing, including in Philadelphia or New York City, are once we open up an artery in the brain, most people, the traditional care is you're done. The artery's open and you kind of want to reperfuse the brain and hope for the best. We're injecting neuroprotectives. There are drugs that we use in the brain all the time, but we know experimentally that they help those cells recover. We've been doing this for almost 10 years now. We're the only ones in the region doing it. We've also, the imaging technology that we use is bar none. We're using artificial intelligence to connect from EMS, from the great folks that are out there saving lives in the field, that are connecting it to our emergency room physicians who are directly connecting with us as the treating physician. We're all connected immediately. And that's how we can really reduce these times and be more accurate with our diagnosis and how we treat patients.
Dr. Vez, sidebar question, because I know that you're willing to take any and all. And I think this is really important. Sometimes, and it would be, in my estimation, even as a layperson, just a terrible moment of truth decision. Sometimes people all of a sudden don't feel right. They know something's wrong. And if they had someone right with them that would say, hey, look, no, you're not going in there and going to sleep. We're going to Atlantic Care Regional Medical Center. We're going right now, or we're calling, 911. What do you say to someone that feels something going on? If they started to count, they might not be able to. They just don't feel well, and you just want to go and put your head on the pillow, and you want to close your eyes, and you want to go to sleep. That could be a very ill-fated decision, could it not?
100%. And it's such an important message. No one wants to go to an emergency room, myself included. People forget that sometimes doctors are patients. No one wants to do that. But, again, let's go back 1 minute, 2 million brain cells. Yeah. And those little things very quickly turn into not being able to move one side of your body, not being able to speak at all, becoming unconscious. And sometimes it's a bleeding or a hemorrhagic stroke. So I cannot emphasize enough to get to the hospital. And, coming to a hospital that is comprehensive means there's no wasted time. You're not going to get a CAT scan, a diagnosis, then get in another ambulance and have to go off. If you can get to Atlantic Care, because we have every single tool there, from the diagnosis to the treatment. And again, time is brain.
Yeah, absolutely. Such an important message, Dr. Vez. How can patients access Atlantic Care's outpatient neurology services, and also what should they expect when they visit?
So, we've made it streamlined. Getting back to what I was saying earlier about kind of, protocolized care, where we have neurology and neurosurgery, and we're very soon to be merging them into neurosciences. The days are gone of neurology, neurosurgery, psychiatry, all these other silos that kind of become part of the problem when we're all treating the same disease. So in the very near future, probably by the end of the summer, there's going to be a department of neurosciences. So if anybody calls in with anything from back pain to, I think I had a TIA, something funny happened a week ago and I ignored it, I just want to see somebody, there's one number to call and we will get you to the right physician. And the key there is physician. You will see that person, you will see the person. It's not one of these things where there's a name and then all of a sudden you're going through this factory of seeing a lot of other different people. So the main number is 609-572-8600, to make an appointment. And that will be a very, very quick turnaround. We generally can get people in within days. If a physician, a primary care doctor, calls us, which happens every day, and says, hey, I'm really concerned about this patient I'm seeing in the office, that's a, same day coming over to the office. Not the emergency room, but coming over to the office.
Dr. Vez, what should referring physicians know about the new access points and the referral process for Atlantic Care's neurosciences services?
Basically, that we're there and there's nothing that we don't treat, and there's no one that we won't see, regardless of anything, whether it's insurance issues or clinical diagnosis. Because again, we have this dedicated team, whereas in the past there was at most centers, we only do this aspect of spine, we only do this aspect of vascular. We literally do everything. So everything from carpal tunnel to brain tumors. And so for the referring physicians, that we do have these new access points where we will see everybody immediately. And we also have something very unique. They have direct access to us, the physicians. And it's not an answering service. It's not going, through a computer. It's literally old school, picking up a phone. Hey, I've got a patient again in my office. What do you think? Can you look at the films? Is this urgent? Should we get them in? So we've made it as easy and seamless as possible to be able to get access for this great new program.
We're at 31 minutes past the hour. We have 5 minutes with Dr. Vez. Anyone listening now that missed any of Dr. Vez, when we upload the program later today from the app, you can download it. You will want to listen. This has been a Dr. Vez clinic. Such important content that's been shared. Dr. Vez, with your extensive background in cerebrovascular and endovascular neurosurgery, how do you envision, and I know some of this came up during the half hour, but I think it's a standalone question on its own. How do you envision the future of neurosurgical care at Atlanticare?
So, first of all, I think you're the first person in 20 years that could seamlessly say cerebrovascular and endovascular neurosurgery. It's a tongue twister.
Thank you.
So, this is my background. I started doing endovascular, and probably about 6 of my colleagues were the first real generation. There were 2 neurosurgeons in the country that basically said, hey, we need to look at the cardiologists and see what they're doing going through wrists and groins and not opening up people's chests. And so there's been a huge evolution, and I would say revolution, of treatment of disease in the brain through the vasculature. And in the past, it was treating aneurysms, which is basically plugging a blister, and stroke treatment, which is relatively new, which is essentially unclogging a drain, which I hate to put it in those terms. But what we've forgotten is that the arteries to the brain are a pathway to everything. We can get into the smallest vessel and affect that area of the brain. So one of the most exciting things I see in endovascular may not be intuitive, but it's treatments of brain tumors. So traditionally, we give chemotherapy in the arm through an IV. Only a certain percentage even crosses the blood-brain barrier to get to the tumor. The whole body has systemic side effects from it. And we know it doesn't work. The life expectancy of somebody with a high-grade glioma is about 8 months, and that hasn't changed much in 50 years. So what we've started doing with some of our colleagues at Cornell and some other colleagues in New York, this was about 10 years ago, is we will thread a catheter right to the artery that feeds the brain tumor, that gives it its nutrients and oxygen to grow, and we will inject the chemotherapy directly to the brain tumor, douse those cells with this chemotherapeutic agent, which is highly focused. Now, are we curing brain cancer? No, of course not. But it's a new route which opens up new doors where we can come up with better drugs and a better understanding of treatment of this disease. So, those are the types of things endovascularly that we're doing now that aren't traditional vascular, but opening the doors to other diseases we can treat.
And we have time for one more question, and the content has been amazing, Dr. Vez, and this is really important that we're going to close with this as well. As we've been mentioning, the month of May is Stroke Awareness Month. Dr. Vez, can you provide an overview of the signs and symptoms of a stroke and what immediate actions should be taken? This is the kind of information that can save lives and, of course, save function, as you were talking about earlier. Time is yours.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is the most important thing of this whole segment. So anytime you experience anything, particularly on one side of your body, numbness, tingling, face numbness, again, particularly on one side of the body, drooping of, and you may not notice it, or you may have a family member say, look, I think your lip is drooping down, problems speaking, getting words out, difficulty with, words on the tip of my tongue. That happens to all of us, but when it is happening suddenly and unexpectedly, those are the types of things that are really urgent and require you to go to an emergency room, or in some cases call 911. I mean, if this is something very, very acute, because it's usually the onset of something much more ominous, where patients who have strokes, completely lose strength on one side of their body. And there are also variants of blacking out, being very dizzy, visual loss. So the message I always tell patients, if something doesn't seem right, you know your body better than anyone, whether it's a severe headache or any of the symptoms I just mentioned. Do not question it. If it comes to your brain, go right to the hospital.
Dr. Vez, thank you for your expertise. Thank you for all the great work that you do. This has been a privilege, actually. I'm not saying that to overstate the case. It's a privilege to have done this interview with you.
Likewise, sir. Likewise. Thank you, Harry. I really appreciate it, and I think the community is well served from your program.
Keep saving lives, Dr. Vez. Great to be with you.
You too. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you, sir. It is exactly 36 minutes past the hour. We'll step aside for a few minutes. When we come back, we'll be joined by Matt Doherty, the former executive director, not only of the Casino Reinvestment Development Authority, but also the immediate past former executive director of the Atlantic City Housing Authority. We'll talk about his time before the United States House of Representatives yesterday, and what his message was. I want you to know that if you go to the article that I wrote yesterday about Matt Doherty, in there you have all of Congressman Van Drew's comments. You have a lot of the comments from Matt Doherty, and we provide a link to all of the testimony. So check that out on the app. We'll be back in just a little bit. Don't go away. This is the Hurley in the Morning program.
The WPG Talk Radio app is everything South Jersey on your phone and in your car through Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. Local news, weather, and information updated around the clock from New Jersey's largest radio news team. Easy access to WPG podcasts and more. Powered by Smokers Haven. You'll find the finest selection of cigars at any of their 5 locations. Stop in and let them help you find the perfect cigar to pair with your life. Visit SmokersHavenNJ.com. You're waking up with Hurley in the morning.
I'm looking for trustworthy news.
WPG Talk Radio 95.5.
Well, then you have come to the right place. And I'll tell you what, we are running a little ahead of schedule. So it's a good thing that Matt Doherty is always Hurley and never late. It's my pleasure to welcome back to the Hurley in the Morning program Matt Doherty. A lot of important titles he's had. He's been the mayor of Belmar. He did a great job. And I really like that town. And even before I knew it, my friend Rob Andrews told me so much about it. And he was a great, friend of this program for so long, and a great congressman. And then, of course, Matt was the executive director of the Casino Reinvestment Development Authority, where he did a really good job. And if given the opportunity, he was well on his way to doing big things, important things at the Atlantic City Housing Authority. And, of course, the ghouls and the goblins, they unfortunately had other plans, but the chickens are coming home. Matt, welcome back to Hurley in the Morning. How you doing?
I'm doing great this morning. Thanks for having me on, Hurley.
It is a pleasure. And I have to say, you did a great job, and our listeners can view what you had to say yesterday if they just go to the WPG Talk Radio 95.5 app. We put together a very comprehensive piece that features you. It features Congressman Van Drew, and we have the link to the entire committee hearing. How would you describe your experience before the United States House of Representatives and the important committee that's hearing testimony on so many bad things that are happening relative to the Atlantic City Housing Authority and as you know, elsewhere as well? Matt, what are your thoughts?
I think it went really well yesterday. I got to give a lot of credit to Congressman Van Drew for his leadership on this from day one, making the committee meet on this as well. It was done at his request. And I just told people the facts and laid them out. I think the more transparency, the better. I think the more people know about what's happening, not just in the past, but current day in the Atlantic City Housing Authority. Hopefully that brings about positive change for the residents who are considered, still suffering under the leadership of this board and its management.
Matt, where you are my source, I always cite it. And I did in this article. You're my source in terms of the things that obviously you had to say before the United States House of Representatives committee, the Financial Services Committee, Subcommittee on Housing and Insurance. But you are not my source on something else that I reported. But I trust my source implicitly, or I would not have made the comment that I did in the article that the Atlantic City Housing Authority is presently under federal criminal investigation. Did I tell the truth there, in your opinion?
Well, I can tell you, and I said this in my hearing testimony, that I have met with the FBI, the HUD, Office of Inspector General, and Assistant U.S. Attorneys who, they're meeting and asking questions about the Housing Authority, not for ethics complaints, but to pursue criminal charges. Yeah. So unfortunately, that's where it's at now. And what I was trying to impress yesterday to the members of Congress is not to simply wait for law enforcement to act to remove bad actors, but to have HUD now come in with the authority that they do have and take over the board, take over management, and start to put the needs of the residents first and start fixing some of these basic problems like heat and hot water.
Yeah.
I mean, it is May 23rd.
Yep.
Right? And there's no plan right now for heat and hot water at Stanley Homes Village for the winter of 24-25.
Which would be year 3. And there were always spotty problems, even when it wasn't complete outages like this. I remember a couple of years ago when this was 1 year of no heat, no hot water. And I said to different people that I would interview at the time, what do you think the chances are that we'll come back here next year and they won't have heat or hot water again? So that would be 2 years. And Matt, this is literally possible. This could be a 3rd year and they won't have heat and hot water again?
I would tell you that if HUD takes over as soon as possible, there's a chance they have heat and hot water. If HUD does not, there is zero chance they have reliable heat and hot water next winter.
When we come back, and this will be our last break, and then we'll go uninterrupted until Brian Kilmeade at 6 minutes past the top of the hour. The level of incompetence is breathtaking to me. I mean, if you took like Palestina and Associates and said, here's millions of dollars and we want heat and hot water and everybody to have, cooking facilities, I mean, we wouldn't be in year 3. The fact that this has gone on at this level and the way that they have gone about running this enterprise with duplication of purchasing, because a purchasing agent at 6 figures is not the purchasing agent, but I guess somebody that they want to do the purchasing as a vendor on the outside can be paid, multiples of whatever it was, 6, 7, 8 times. And somehow this makes sense in Bizarro world. I mean, this is the reason corruption, abject failure, incompetence at the worst, possible level for something like this to be able to go on and on and on. I do want to talk further, Matt, when we come back about why this is, why it's allowed to continue, and what is the solution. You said earlier, unfortunately, that it's probably before a grand jury as we speak. It's definitely before legal controlling authorities. I don't say unfortunately. I say thank God. Fortunately it is, because really that's the only thing I see as something that will actually change what's been going on, because the same people and people just like them that don't have either the best interests of the residents or the ability to get the job done have just failed now for years. And I agree with you when you say this is the biggest slumlord, going. A lot to unpack with Matt Doherty coming up in just a few minutes. Don't go away. With Matt, I am Hurley in the Morning.
You're waking up with Hurley in the Morning.
Brigantine.
Mays Landing. EHT.
Ocean City.
WPG Talk Radio 95.5. South Jersey's talk station. WPGG Atlantic City. WENJ HD3 Millville. A Town Square media station.
Hey guys, Donald Trump Jr. here. Let me ask you this. Does inflation feel worse than what we're being told in the news? That's because the official inflation rate doesn't tell the whole story. Since January 2021, the cost of living has increased by 17.9%. You can't get that money back. But what you can do is stop your losses today. How? By diversifying your savings into a gold IRA from my friends at Birch Gold Group. When you're done, your money will be parked in a tangible asset with a proven history. To see how it works, get your free info kit on gold IRAs by texting the word PROTECT to 989898. I trust Birch Gold. They provide an easy process to roll over your 401k or IRA into gold without losing your tax advantaged status. So text PROTECT to 989898. That's PROTECT to the number 989898 to get your free info kit on gold IRAs from Birch Gold.
Message and data rates may apply.
Wake up weekday mornings with Hurley in the Morning.
This is the stuff we need to talk about.
WPG Talk Radio 95.5.
Thank you and welcome back. It is 49 minutes past the hour. Visiting with Matt Doherty. We're talking about the Atlantic City Housing Authority. So, Matt, I almost vomited a basket full of problems. But so we know the problems. The problems are well celebrated. People are being underserved. They've got everything from rats as big as cats to bugs, you name it. And again, one of the worst things you can ever do to human beings, you give them no heat, no hot water, in some cases no cooking facilities with natural gas, and just all kinds of problems. We could talk about the problems until the end of time. What will get us to the finish line of actually solutions?
In my estimation, it's if HUD takes over the housing authority, puts it into receivership, and brings real professionals in to operate it.
And Matt, as you know, they're not that shy. I mean, they've done it. They've done it in New Jersey, actually, in the past. Why have they let this go on for years and years like this?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Most recently, they did it in Irvington, New Jersey, in Essex County.
Yeah.
The why, Harry, I really don't know. I mean, I wish I had an answer to that. But I could tell you that, when I talk about corruption, I don't want to underscore or leave out the level of incompetence as well. And I'll give you a real-world example that's happening now. So in the last few months, the Housing Authority has been fined $8,000 in occurrence when their boiler inspections failed. They failed inspection by the Department of Labor. In response to that, on today's agenda, they're going to be terminating their boiler maintenance contractor, but they don't have any new person to put in place.
Wow.
So their boilers are failing inspection. They know that. Their boiler maintenance contractor is a disaster, obviously, so they're firing him, but they have no one to put him in place. And you have boilers, as you know, that date back to the 1930s.
Aren't they required? I don't know what the Blue Seal or whatever it's called. Isn't there a requirement? So if they fire their person that does it now and they don't have simultaneously the replacement, aren't they deficient in terms of certification that they're required to have on hand?
I would guess you're right. I don't know. But I do know that they're not going to have someone on hand to maintain boilers that obviously are the backbone to a heating and hot water system that, dates back almost a century, that you and I know and just talked about before, failed for the last 2 winters in a row.
It's just a level of crazy that you were there long enough to know, and you were actually getting somewhere, which is why they asked you to leave. For those who don't know, that board asked Matt to leave, but they did not do it with cause because there was no justifiable cause. You were doing a great job. What is their philosophy of governance of that agency? It doesn't seem to be to provide service to public housing residents, which would almost be like being the management of a baseball team, and you don't have bats and baseballs and the very basics. It just seems like they have an entirely different set of priorities, whether it's to be an employment agency, to friends and family, or I could keep speculating, but they don't have any sense of urgency to manage the core function of their mission. It's indefensible.
Right. And just to clarify, I was never asked to leave. I was fired.
Okay.
I would never leave people in the condition that they were in, and that's why.
I was being polite. So I'm glad that you literally re-described it. But yeah, when I said you were asked to leave, that was my way of saying that they unceremoniously let you go.
But prior to me being fired, we did have a plan designed by an engineer for a new heating and hot water system. It was supposed to go out to bid in June of 2023. And because the procurement director never answered to the executive director at the time, that's me, he just didn't move forward with it. Just never happened and never explained as to why. When he was asked by a press reporter, he said, I was told not to do it by a member of the board. So this is where, again, guys with, badges.
And by the way, for anybody who knows anything about a board structure, one board member, you have authority when the board is in session. You're one member of the board. A board member told him not to work with you on that. How corrupt and stupid is that, Matt?
Oh, I'll give you another one. Jeff Dorsey, who's the treasurer of the board, would meet privately with contractors that were awarded no-bid contracts.
Just say, wow.
And as you know, Jeff Dorsey is himself a contractor.
Yeah. That's not even legal, is it? It's unethical to say the least. I don't even think that's legal. You're talking about this should have been, requests for proposals or, bids, and you come in with responsible, bids, and the lowest responsible bid is picked after your review. But there's just no good practices in place, are there?
No, and that's why the solution is to bring in, HUD to take it over, put it into receivership. They can go out, they can find real good professional companies that don't have relationships with people in town to come in, take it over, make tough decisions, make good decisions, and spend the money adequately. And I'll also tell you that, there's not an infinite amount of money. So as they continue to spend money on consultants and all these other things they're spending money on, it's running down.
Yeah. Hey, Matt, I remember her name only because it's going to sound weird, but I do association, and I associated this person with Elmer Fudd. So Marcia Fudge, or whatever her name was, it was just a weird little association thing that I would do because I was not very impressed with the former Secretary of Housing and Urban Development because there just didn't seem to be a priority where there was a significant enough problem that it should have really gotten the attention and there should have been corrective action done. I am hopeful, although I have no reason to say this other than maybe I've heard a little bit that says that it's a more positive situation now. Is there any more sense of urgency regarding the situation than there used to be?
I believe there is, and I believe that now that Congress is involved, that they're holding hearings, that in the hearing they're talking about specifically the Atlantic City Housing Authority. That gives me some hope that there's enough pressure on HUD that they will move forward on taking it over at some point.
Wow.
Again, that's a guess on my part, but if this doesn't push them in that direction, I really don't know what else will.
Matt, your mic is still on. I just have to step aside for just a quick minute to remind our listeners that this portion of our program is brought to us in part by Congress Hall. Congress Hall is, simply put, America's oldest, therefore America's first seaside resort. Presidents, multiple, have visited. Musicians, artists, dignitaries, really amazing esteemed guests over the past more than 200 years, and your company is always requested. It's a grand, amazing property in Cape May, New Jersey. It's an icon of relaxed elegance, warm hospitality, and they've been welcoming generations of travelers. Margie and I have stayed there so many times over the years. We absolutely love it, and they've been welcoming generations of travelers since 1816. You'll see the classic American charm from the moment you walk through the door. You'll see the marble-floored lobby. What Curtis Bashaw has achieved is a restoration that respects the past, but also modernized with everything that you want to see in the year 2024. They have great amenities, world-class resort, healthy indulgences. You have the Sea Spa on the first level. You have hearty farm fresh favorites at the Blue Pig Tavern. You have cocktails at the Brown Room Lounge on the first lobby floor level as well. And then the Boiler Room, which years and years and years ago was obviously filled with coal, is now a tremendous space where they have amazing brick oven pizza and other really neat food and beverage options, dancing. That's all down in the Boiler Room. In short, Congress Hall has it all. And spring midweek means less crowds and better rates. So book your stay even before the official summer season. I know that it sort of unofficially starts with this weekend, but caperesorts.com/Congress Hall. That's caperesorts.com/Congress Hall. And it is hard to believe that it's Memorial Day weekend. When you were getting ready to do your presentation before the House subcommittee, how were expectations versus how it all went? What's your takeaway from all of it?
I wasn't sure exactly what to expect. And I think it went really well. I think people were very receptive. Some people were surprised. Some people were not. Because while there are most public housing authorities operating really well, there are a handful throughout the country who are in as bad shape as Atlantic City. I will tell you one of the things I noticed that was a divide among the Democrats and Republicans on the committee. And as you know, I'm a Democrat. And
I don't hold that against you, Matt. We all have flaws. I mean, so I never hold that against you, Matt. Go ahead.
And I stayed in Congress Hall, by the way, and I think Curtis Bradshaw runs a great place.
There you go. Good one.
But it started to get into this fight over funding. And, what I tried to impress on him was, look, I'm not saying you should fund HUD less. I'm not saying you should fund HUD more. I'm just saying it's hard to ask for more money when you know there are corrupt practices going on and you're not willing to address them.
By the way, words mean things, and you're a very measured, professional, polished guy. And you do use the word corruption, and you used it yesterday before the United States House of Representatives. What do you mean by corruption?
I mean a practice where the money that is allocated for low-income families and seniors is not being properly allocated to benefit them.
There you go.
If it's not being used for that, specifically for that, then in my mind, it is a corrupt practice.
Without a doubt. How would you describe the procurement process when they have, at different times, the in-house person that was making over $100,000, and then for some bizarre reason, because I've worked within corporate structures. I had a purchasing director. In fact, his name was Jim Allen, who's now obviously chairman of Hard Rock.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we go way back. He was my purchasing director. So when I was with Trump, so I worked with the purchasing director. I didn't go get a vendor from the outside and say, hey, I got this purchasing director, but he's really not the purchasing director. I'm going to have you do this. That just looked like, on paper, they wanted it to look like they had a button-down organization, but they had a side door, if you will, a back door, rather, back channel for how they were doing it. I'm not wrong, am I?
You're absolutely right. And not only that, at the hearing, I let the members of Congress know that the Atlantic City Housing Authority's procurement, the way it managed procurement, violated its own written procurement policy.
Yeah.
Have you ever heard of something like that?
Blatant.
What's the point of having a written policy for a government organization if you're going to violate it and knowingly violate it?
So is there just a belief that they can do that? Because one of them that's on there is a member of council, obviously, and I know you're close with him. I'm not, but Marty does control everybody that's on that board, so the failure is at his feet as well. I don't try to bring that into your world gratuitously, but it is terrible what's going on. They, I think, believe that they can do what they want and that nothing is ever going to happen to them. How else would you go on like this for years and years? I'd be embarrassed. I couldn't sleep. If I left people with no heat, no hot water going on a third year, I would have such a conscience about that. They don't seem to care, Matt.
No, they don't seem to care, and they act as if they're untouchable.
Yes.
And I'll give you an example. Judge Porto, who is a civil courts judge in Atlantic County, is hearing testimony about the problems with the housing authority, and he's put in orders for them to fix the heat and hot water. They just disregard it.
Jeez.
And tell me what's the implication of not listening to a court order?
Well, he could cite them, and he could start to threaten to lock.
He doesn't.
But he could.
He doesn't.
He could threaten
but he doesn't.
I know, to lock them up. That would get somebody's attention. You go lock somebody up. Matt, we are down to 30 seconds. Quick closing comment. Anything you'd like to share?
I just want to thank you again, as always, for keeping this in the forefront, keeping it as a topic. The more this is discussed, the better. The more transparency, the better. I appreciate you and your listeners caring about the folks that are suffering through the management at the Atlantic City Housing Authority. So thank you, Harry.
You're an elegant leader. Thank you for your leadership on this. We are going to continue to stay on top of this, and you are making a very big material difference. So you keep doing what you're doing as well. And nice to talk to you, Matt. We'll keep in touch.
Have a great day. Bye.
Take care. You have a good day, too. Brian Kilmeade is about to take over the airwaves here at WPG Talk Radio 95.5. I am twice published already. You never know what might happen as the day continues. So always be checking the digital content on the WPG Talk Radio 95.5 app. I can't believe it, but when we sign on tomorrow, it will be Memorial Day weekend. Then I promise you we will blink, and it will be July 4th, and we will blink